Oh wait, what happened? All right, we're live for week number 5. College football, DDSN radio. We're back and ready to go. If you missed our show on Monday, which we're going to be having our recap, kind of opening line show on Mondays, go ahead and check it out if you haven't already on YouTube and X. But let's go ahead and just highlight a little bit of our openers that we talked about that some people may have missed. Before we start getting into this week's games, go ahead and start us off there, Connor.
So on Monday, can you hear what's going on in the background? Can you hear that right now?
No, I can't hear anything.
Okay, good. There's something loud going on next door. Okay. So on Monday, I took two openers for best bets. I took Appalachian State plus 16 and a half at Boise State. Um, I'm still pulling up some sports books here to see where that last time I checked, that number was like 15 and a half to 16. So we did have some positive steam there
Yeah.
based on our bet there. I'm trying to pull it up here.
Yeah,
Let's
because when we
scroll.
talked about it on Monday, it was at 16 and a half. And then yesterday was at 16.
It's at 16 and a half at Bet MGM. Let's see. Let's see at FanDuel. Gosh, where is it? I'm trying to find it here.
Yeah, no, I know earlier it was at, or no, I didn't look until last night. Last night, it was late last night, it was at 16.
FanDuel, it's at 15 and a half.
Okay. And what do you think about that? What do you think about 15 and a half right now?
I still lean Appalachian State.
Okay.
I think Boise is getting a little bit too much respect in the marketplace right now. I don't think that they are getting priced properly. I don't think Boise is a juggernaut, and they're getting priced that way.
Mm-hmm.
Quite frankly, like I don't think Boise was fabulous last year. Obviously, they had a couple of really good players, neither of which are still in Boise. I
Yeah.
do think Boise's offense and defensive lines are really good by G5 standards, especially their offensive line.
Mm-hmm.
But Maddox Madsen, their quarterback, he's banged up. He's probably going to play. We talked about that on Monday, but he's probably going to play for Boise, but he's not 100%. Also, when you look at the spot here, Boise has Notre Dame on deck.
That's right. That's
And
something
then
else we talked about.
um, you probably saw the news of the earlier this week of the assistant coach for UCF that passed away, Sean Clark, a former Appalachian State head coach just last year.
Mm-hmm.
So I think from the emotional perspective, App State's going to bring a little bit extra for this game. Um, so the spot here for Boise, not that favorable. App State coming off of a bye as well. And I think Appalachian State is better than what their record has shown. If you were to go look at the box scores, and there's more to it than just that, eye test App State doesn't look obviously like what they did several years ago, but much better than their record. But the box
Mm-hmm.
scores show a much different story than their scores have shown. So, like, they should have beat Lindenwood by a few touchdowns. I know they only won that game by one score, they only won by 7.
Mm-hmm.
Turnovers have been a problem for Appalachian State, but moving the football has not. So if they avoid turnovers, I 100% expect them to cover the spread. But that is the question. But I think from a talent standpoint, I don't think App State's going to get run over here. And I think App State can put up a lot of yards and points against the Broncos defense, which I don't think is great. I think their defensive line's okay. But the strength for Appalachian State's offense is through the air. So I think they're going to get a lot of passing yards on the Broncos defense. So that was the first best bet that I had. And so positive steam everywhere you look in terms of money coming in on App State. There's some sports books that haven't changed much, but more money coming in on App State at this point. So 15 and a half, 16 and a half. I like both of those numbers, but obviously our play is 16 and a half.
Yeah.
And then the other one that I had was Louisiana Tech minus 3.5 on the road against the UTEP Miners. At this point, it's like if it ain't broke, don't fix it. And Louisiana Tech is 4-0 against the number so far, against the spread this season. So until they prove me otherwise, I'm going to keep riding that Louisiana Tech Bulldog train. Now, in the past, John, I play Louisiana Tech by taking their opposition's team total under, but one of Louisiana Tech's best defensive backs will not be available this week. and the strength for UTEP is through the passing game with Malachi Nelson and probably a top half receiving core in Conference USA.
Mhm.
So I could see UTEP scoring like around 20 points. That's 20 and a half is their team total. So I think they'd be sweating that one out. Not interested in that. But I like Louisiana Tech minus 3.5. Again, until they prove me otherwise, I'm going to keep riding the Bulldog train here. I think Louisiana Tech can completely control the line of scrimmage in this game. So I would not be shocked to see Louisiana Tech cruise to like a 7 to 14 point victory, even on the road here. And remember, Sonny Cumbie and this coaching staff, they are undefeated against UTEP.
There you go. There you go. And other than the Washington Ohio State game, did you have another one in the openers?
So from the preseason, we made that video
Oh, that's
game
right.
of the
Okay,
year.
yeah.
Penn State minus 3.5 versus Oregon. I still love that. I think Penn State's been playing possum. I really do. We're gonna find out, obviously, and we're gonna see big game James Franklin.
That's
But
right.
I like Penn State here. I still question Oregon's ability to match what Penn State has at the line of scrimmage.
Mhm.
Dante Moore on the road. I still cannot get that freshman Dante Moore out of my mind at UCLA a couple years ago,
He's awful.
and he hasn't played anyone that good up to this point. Penn State hasn't either, but here's my point. That offsets Penn
Yeah.
State's and Oregon's strength of schedule offsets for me. So now I go back to my priors. What was I thinking in the preseason? Penn State was going to have an all-in effort here. Oregon's a younger team in this whiteout environment. If Penn State doesn't win this game, then I am never. It's like the Clemson Dabo Sweeney thing, right? Like if they
Yeah.
don't do it in this spot, then I'm never going to tail them again. But I'm going to tail Penn State in the spot. I think they could win this game by a couple of touchdowns. Give me Penn State minus 3.5. That's from the preseason. Um, but um, in regard to any additional best bets, I do have one more, which we'll get to later in the show.
All right, perfect. Well, let's go ahead and get into it. We'll start with the Friday games. And as always, if y'all have any questions, just let us know in the chat. Let me open up the chat, should be open on YouTube and Twitter. And I should be able to get like comments from Twitter for anybody that's on X, Twitter. Comments should pop up. But other than that, if you're on YouTube, go ahead and send us a chat in. The hotlines are open as well. I'll go ahead and turn that on. It is on, but let me go ahead and make sure hotlines open so we could always receive any voicemails, phone calls, or text messages. So let us know any of your questions, whether you're watching live or if you check this out later on YouTube or X, just go ahead and let us know. But let's go ahead and get started. And I just want to double check really quick to make sure everything's working on X. And yeah, it looks perfect. So let's go ahead and get into it. And we'll start with the first game of the night, and that's going to be Florida State laying 6.5. This was 7 for the majority of the week, and now they're laying 6.5, 7, depending on where you look at. Traveling to Virginia to take on Tony Elliott's Cavaliers. I believe Virginia is 2-1, 3-1, and Florida State's still undefeated, top 10 team in the country right now. You have any info on this one?
I think Florida State could run for like 300 yards in this game. I don't think Virginia's defense is really that good. Injuries have been part of the issue for the Cavaliers defense.
Mhm.
They had a ton of injuries throughout fall camp, so they haven't been fully healthy. That hasn't exactly been beneficial for them. But I do think Virginia's offense is legit, which is something I have never said about Virginia football. I mean,
Yeah, it's been a while. It's been a while. I'm
2019,
trying to remember the last time Virginia had a good defense. I mean, good offense.
Bryce Perkins, 2019.
Bryce Perkins. Okay. All right. They're decent. They were decent. They're pretty good.
I think it was Bryce Perkins, right? Let me see.
I know they had was it Armstrong?
You're right. Yeah, it was Bryce Perkins, but yes, you're right. Armstrong, they did have a good offense. That was 2021. So I guess
Okay.
Virginia did have a really good offense in 2021.
We'll go ahead and say this is probably Tony Elliott's best offense and
Yeah.
probably best team that he's had in. I think this is year number 4 for him. And Florida State, they've had an after they dominated Alabama, they had a pretty easy schedule. I believe they beat A&M Commerce by about 70. They put up 60 on Kent State on last Saturday. So they're finally getting a little bit of competition. An evening game on the road at Virginia. Virginia's coming off, I believe, destroying Stanford.
Yep.
So this is an interesting game. Last night I took 7 with Virginia. Do you see any 7s out there
Let's see.
available?
Yes, there is a 7 at DraftKings. There is, let's see, 6.5 at FanDuel, 6.5 at Bet365, 7 at Bet Rivers,
Okay.
and then at BetMGM, there's another 7. So if
Okay,
you like that,
so
yeah,
yeah, so pretty much if you're not betting offshore, there's 7s available for Virginia. I think, like you, I agree with what you said that uh, Florida State could run the ball, especially on this Virginia defense. That's how North Carolina State had plenty of had a huge effect in the game was their ability to run the ball. So Virginia's going to have to throw the ball, complete passes, and test this Florida State defense. So it should be interesting. I'm hoping this game lands 3 or 4. Can Virginia get the outright win? I'm not calling for a sprinkle on this one, but I'll take the touchdown and see if Florida State is ready because they also have a look ahead spot with Miami on deck next week.
yeah.
So that could play a little factor. So I'll go ahead and take the 7 points, see if Virginia can keep it close. I like the way Chad Morris has been throwing the ball, but as we know, Tony Elliott, I talked about this, our first show, week 3, that you can't really trust his game management. He loves to go for it on 4th down. It's fine to be aggressive, but with Elliott, it rarely works out for him. And in that North Carolina State game, if he would have just kicked a field goal and got the game to, I believe, a 2-point game, or I think it was a 4-point game, if he got it down to 2-point game, instead of throwing an interception, they would have been able to kick another field goal for the win late in the game. Hindsight's 2020, but with Tony Elliott, he keeps making these decisions. They keep coming back to haunt him. So I'll take the 7 points. I don't know about an outright win, but I think we might get a close one. And this is a 6 p.m. Central game.
And by the way, looking at Virginia's schedule, John, this was actually something I texted you back in the summer. I was like, I didn't really want to bet on Tony Elliott, but I'm like, that UVA schedule is extremely manageable. So they play Florida State and then at Louisville. But then afterwards, John, I mean, they're going to be, at the very least, they're going to be favored their remaining games outside of a road game against Duke. They host Washington State after a bye week. They play at North Carolina. They play at Cal. They host Wake Forest, the road game against the Blue Devils.
And they already beat Stanford.
And then they host Virginia Tech after a bye week, who's obviously in a disaster scenario this season. So,
well, yeah, that's a really favorable schedule in the ACC. That's probably as good as it gets on other than the Cal Bears schedule.
congratulations to Tony Elliott. I think UVA is finally going to go to a bowl game.
Yeah, took them long enough. But let's get in the next game. So we have 8 o'clock game, and this is probably going to be the best game of the night, at least on paper. And that's the TCU Horned Frogs visiting Arizona State Sun Devils. Sun Devils are laying 3 points in this one. You have any info for us?
No. Again, it's one of those Big 12 games with a 2.5 or a 3-point spread. So I'm not really interested in this one.
Yeah. Yeah, no, I agree. And we kind of talked about this on Monday that Arizona State, a lot of their games recently, they've all been coming down to the wire, almost all of them. Mississippi State ended on the last play of the game. Baylor game ended on the last play of the game. Even Texas State, that was a 19-point game, but The Bobcats kind of got it going in the second half. So this is an interesting game because we talked about how these are coin flip games, and just like the Baylor Arizona State game last year is a coin flip, and the dog ended up winning outright, Arizona State. And I think we're going to have another one of these games, and TCU is one of my teams that are flying under the radar. Nobody's talking about them, and they've probably looked like one of the best teams that we've seen on their schedule so far. They've dominated North Carolina. They dominated SMU, and I think they had like an easy game. But they look great against SMU. I wasn't high on SMU. I'm still not. But this TCU team looks like the real deal. I took 3 points with the Horned Frogs last night, and you could still find 3 points. Looks like on Bet Online, TCU's laying $1.14. So it's available. And again, if it's another one of those coin flip games, I rather have the dog with 3 points, or you could just take the money line plus 134 is not terrible for a 3 point underdog. But I like Hoover, McAllister outside, Kavorian Barnes running the ball. They've got good running backs, got a great offensive line, and the defense is much better than expected. I like this TCU team, and we're about to find out which one of these is the real deal.
I can find a plus 135 for TCU on the money line at Bet 365.
There you go. And that's in that same general area, just a cent off. But I like TCU in this one. I think it's going to be a great game. There's one that may not be a great game, and that's the night game where the Houston Cougars are laying 13 and a half on the road in Corvallis to take on the Oregon State Beavers. You have any info on this one?
I do not have any info, but I do lean Houston minus 13.5.
Yeah, and we kind of talked about this on Monday as well. I like Houston. I laid it 13 and a half. Yes, they do have Texas Tech on deck, but the Cougars are coming off a bye, so I expect them to be locked in. And this time, because they're off a bye, they'll be rested. Especially the defense will be rested. And Oregon State is on the complete opposite. They're not rested. They've had a brutal 4 game schedule where they've just been getting their teeth kicked in nonstop. And this is just a terrible spot for Oregon State on a short week. I think Houston could dominate this one. That way they get ready for Texas Tech next week. But I just, because they had a bye week, I just don't see them looking ahead to Texas Tech. I think they take care of business and lean on their defense and running the football. I think that they could win this by 2 touchdowns. I like the Cougars in this one. I took it laying 13 and a half.
You asked just a few seconds ago if I had anything on this game, and I said no. Technically, I guess I do have one little nugget, not on
There you
this
go.
matchup, but on one of these teams.
Okay.
There are, I believe, 8 teams that are undefeated against the spread to this point in the season, and one of those teams is Houston.
Houston Cougars. That's right. They dominated Colorado, Rice, um, someone else.
They
I don't
covered
know.
against Stephen F. Austin,
Okay.
and then that's been it. Yeah.
Okay, there you go. But yeah, and this Houston defense, it's looking pretty good so far. So I like it. So I'm landing with Houston. I don't have a problem with it on the road. Look ahead spot doesn't scare me because of the bye week they had. So I love the Cougars tonight. It's not one of my best bets, but I like them. And I played it already. So all right, let's get into the Saturday games. And let's start with an interesting game here. And that's the Notre Dame Fighting Irish laying 4.5 on the road at Arkansas. You have anything on this one?
Whew, I lean over for everything in this game. I just don't see either of these defenses stopping the opposition, and I certainly don't. I certainly do not trust Arkansas and their defense against this Notre Dame offense. Everything that was said about Notre Dame in the preseason was the questions are at quarterback. They have everything else. Well, it
Hmm.
turns out CJ Carr is actually the strength of the team, and they have a lot
That's
of
it.
questions elsewhere, especially obviously with the defense. Chris
Yep.
Ash has probably been the most disappointing defensive coordinator in the entire country this season. There's not many things that I like about Arkansas, but one of the things that I do like about the Razorbacks this season is Talon Green and his dual threat capabilities at quarterback. And I
Hmm.
definitely think that he can expose this Notre Dame defensive line, specifically with the rushing attack and his ability to make plays with his legs. Um, but I don't think Arkansas's defense is going to stop Notre Dame at all.
Yeah,
Um,
no, I agree with you on that.
I don't have any best bets here, but I think this is going to be a complete shootout. The total is probably what, in the mid 60s, maybe lower 60s?
I'm seeing 64 on Bet Online.
Yeah, I mean, there's a slight chance that one of these teams tries to hog the clock, no pun intended with hog there.
There you
They
go.
might try to take off a lot of possession. They might try to keep the opponent's offense off the field with
Mhm.
utilizing the running game because both of these teams are really good at running the football.
Yep.
And neither of these teams' defensive lines are that spectacular. We knew Arkansas's wouldn't be. Notre Dame's has just been flat out very disappointing.
Mhm.
So I feel like there's a decent chance that we get like a 45 to 42 kind of game, but there's also a chance you're sweating that total and it's like 34 to 31. Um, and the Notre Dame team total is 34 and a half. So it's right there
Yeah.
with the market, obviously. So I don't really have any best bets here. I just kind of look forward to watching this one, kicking back and seeing a lot of points. So I don't have any
Yeah.
best bets here.
Yeah, me either. I'm not. This isn't a game I want to bet, and I feel like I've been talking about it every week, for sure. And that's Notre Dame. You can't trust their defense. You just can't. And what do I always say? They can't cover athletes. They couldn't cover against Miami. They couldn't cover the Texas A&M athletes. And Arkansas, although they're not as good as A&M and Miami, they do have athletes. They're just not at that top tier like those other two teams. And they're also going to be on the road. Arkansas is coming off a loss. The other thing I tend to mention constantly is Sam Pittman. You can't trust him. Close
Right,
game, can't trust him. He
right.
blew it against Memphis. And, this is another close game, 4.5. This may close at 4. So I just can't take the points with Arkansas, and I don't trust the Notre Dame defense. I'm happy to pass on this game. It's just something I can't play because you can't really trust either team. You either take the points hoping that lands a field goal, or you take Notre Dame hoping they run the ball down Arkansas's throat. Something that Memphis was able to do. They were able to spread the ball out. They're able to run it, and they gave especially Memphis's quarterback, whenever he was able to get have time in the pocket to throw, he made plays. So CJ Carr could pick apart this Arkansas defense, which didn't look good against Memphis. So, and this Notre Dame team is, I wouldn't say 10 times better than Memphis's offense, but they're going to be much better because the weapons are definitely NFL weapons that Notre Dame has. Um, so I could see Notre Dame winning by a touchdown. I could see this landing a field goal. It's a game I want nothing to do with for those reasons.
Memphis ran the ball for over 300 yards on
Yeah.
the Razorback defense. Now, here's the difference between Memphis and Notre Dame and their running game specifically. Memphis has Brendan Lewis, who's a dual threat quarterback. CJ Carr, it's not that he's immobile, he's just not a true dual threat quarterback.
Yeah.
So he doesn't exactly provide the same threat that Lewis did against Arkansas. So, but here's the thing: Notre Dame might had the best running back room in the country. They in Penn State.
I would go out on a limb and say Notre Dame does have the best running backs in the country.
So yeah, there you have it, folks.
But it's if they use them or not. They didn't use them against Miami. They got their ass kicked. They used them against A&M, and it's a game they should have won. So I would imagine third time's the charm for the Irish, and they use them against Arkansas. It's just how this game's going to play out. And honestly, I wouldn't be surprised if Notre Dame won by a touchdown. I also wouldn't be surprised if it came down to a field goal because of these defenses.
Yep, I totally agree, and I don't have any best bets for this game. There's just nothing that sticks out to me like, ooh, that's something that I'd want to put money on. I think this
Yeah.
is high variance up and down the field, which my biggest question and unknown, which is a large part of the reason why I don't have any best bets, is because I'm not sure what to expect from the tempo of both teams. Do they slow it down? Again, do they try to keep their defense off the field? Or do they just say, hey, you know what? We're going to try to score more points than you. Is this going to be like an old fashioned Big 12 game? I say old fashioned. Is this going to be, a Big 12 game that we saw like in the 2010s, like
Yeah.
62 to 55 or 52 to 45? Or is it going to be, hey, we're going to slow things down, chew up clock, and we're going to win 31-28? I don't know. That's why I don't have any strong leans or best bets here.
Exactly, and that's why I wouldn't play the total either. I could see both teams just running the ball every play and it being like, a game in the 20s. So 28-24, something along those lines. So that's why I wouldn't play the total. So I agree with you on that as well.
I don't normally say this because I don't bet these kinds of things, but I know a lot of people do. This is the kind of game to bet player props rather than team totals and spreads, in my opinion.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, that makes sense, especially if you back Notre Dame running backs in this one. Let's go to the next game, and it's another AC. It's an ACC game, and it's going to be Louisville laying 4 points on the road at Pitt. You have any info for us on this one?
When we do our money line sprinkles at the end of the show, I might have a little bit of something on this one.
Oh, okay, yeah, all right, all right, yeah. See, the thing is, I don't know much about either of these teams because Louisville hasn't played anybody so far, and Pitt, they lost to West Virginia and they kind of blew the game. But again, as a rivalry, road game, coin flip game. But I lean Pitt here. Not a game I'm gonna bet because I don't know enough about either team right now. But if I had to, I would take the points, but not something I have a bet on, and I doubt I will have one come tomorrow morning. But we'll come back to this at the end of the show, though. Next game, we kind of touched on this one a little bit Monday, and that's the Duke Blue Devils now laying 5 on the road at Syracuse. Syracuse has lost their starting quarterback and Jelly for the season, and they're also coming off a huge game against Syracuse. What are your thoughts on this one?
I lean Duke here and the points. But this is also not something I'm willing to bet. This is probably going to be a similar score to Arkansas and Notre Dame. There's going to be a lot of points in this. Well, I know Duke's going to get their points. We'll see if Syracuse does. So I lean Duke, but this is not best bet material.
And the total's 59.5 right now, juice to the over $1.15. Yeah, same thing. I lean Syracuse if they had Angeli, but since they don't, and I don't want to trust Duke, so this is not a game I'm going to bet on. A 5, yeah, I just, you know, I'll be cheering for Syracuse because of the way they played against Clemson, but I highly doubt I have a bet on this game come Saturday morning.
If you lean Duke, you can find some 4.5s out there, but there are also flat fives if you lean Syracuse. I don't think there's any 5.5s out there anymore. So
And this was pretty much 6 all week if you did like Syracuse, so you probably missed out on that number. I don't
yeah.
think it goes back to I don't think we're gonna because money's coming on Syracuse, so it's either gonna land 5 between 4 and 5 here for Duke. So we'll see what happens.
I'm
Another ACC showdown at 11 a.m. I shouldn't use the word showdown, but it's the Georgia Tech Yellow Jackets laying 14 points on the road at Wake Forest. Any info on this one?
the showdown with the Demon Deacons.
Yeah. Uh,
Uh, no, I don't have any leans here.
Same, Wake Forest, they have a little bit of an offense. I don't know who Georgia Tech plays next week. So you could probably say, oh, maybe there's a look ahead spot. Wake Forest could sneak in, cover this one. But again, Wake Forest is in complete rebuild mode. Georgia Tech's trying to win the ACC. No bet for me again. Georgia Tech's more than happy to win by 3 points, 7 points.
Yeah.
They just want to get the win, get on the next week. And you're going to get Wake Forest's best game, just like North Carolina State did, but nothing I'm willing to bet on here.
Georgia Tech is not the kind of team that you really want to lay points, especially double-digit points with. They are more
No,
of a team that just wins outright. It's just the way they play with their tempo. They play in a lot of 1 to 2 score games. So in these kind of spots, they're going to be 13 and a half, 14 and a half point favorite. I'm not willing to sweat that out
yeah,
again with the tempo that Georgia Tech runs. The best way to bet the Yellow Jackets is to take them as an underdog, especially when they're hosting a ranked
100%.
team. Because when you put a funny little number next to that team's name, Georgia Tech becomes like your Super Bowl champion. So
Yeah.
with the quality of the team. So yeah, Georgia Tech is like a money line play. So if they're an underdog in the game, so
Yeah, no, I agree 100%. And Brink Key, he's more than happy, just to win the game, move on. And if they're up 14, 17 points, he'll just run the ball the entire second half and just to eat the clock and get out of there. So yeah, I definitely not going to lay points with Georgia Tech for all of those reasons. Okay, Big Ten game, 11 a.m. Rutgers at Minnesota. Golden Gophers laying 5 points. Both of these teams are coming off. No, wait, no. Did Minnesota have a game last week or did they have a bye?
I
We
think they
know
had a bye.
Okay, yeah.
I'm pulling
So
it
they
up here.
got beat by Cal and then a
Yeah,
bye week.
I'm pulling it up right now.
Okay, so we know Rutgers got beat by, I think,
They had a
10
bye.
points, 14 points against Iowa last Friday. Minnesota's coming off a bye, and before that, they got beat by Cal. Golden Gophers laying 5 points. You have any info on this one?
I do not. I don't know what to expect here. I trust Minnesota's defense more, but I trust Rutgers' offense much more than Minnesota's offense.
Yeah.
I,
And
I
this
don't
was
know.
around, I think, 4 or 5 points. That sounds right. I don't think it's moved very much. And the total's at 51. Are we going to see a Rutgers team that's going to put up 28 points again? Although they did that all in one quarter, I believe, 21 points in a quarter, and then they just scored once the rest of the game. I
I'm
could be
pulling it
wrong.
up.
I didn't really watch this game. I was watching what was that other game for
Oh,
today I was
Oklahoma
watching?
State, Tulsa.
Oh God, yes. I'm embarrassed. I'm embarrassed to say that, but yes, that's the game I was watching last Friday.
Rutgers had 21 points in the first half against Iowa. By the way, Iowa's
That's what I
defense
thought.
is not their usual self. So if you have,
No,
yeah, we'll talk about
and we'll get into
Iowa
that.
later
We'll get
on.
into that a little bit later for sure. But
So
yeah, nothing for me on that Big Ten game.
yeah,
That Rutgers Minnesota's kind of that's probably our power four outhouse game of the week. To be honest with you, that's probably a power four outhouse game right there.
let me see here.
You're looking up.
Yeah, I mean, yeah. Let's, I think UCF Kansas State could be a contender for that.
Oh, well, at least Central Florida's winning games.
Oh, I got it for you, man. It's UCLA at Northwestern.
Yeah, that's also in the running. That I mean, what do they both have like one win each, right?
Well, UCLA is winless. Northwestern has a
Oh, they
win.
haven't even won. Gosh, I thought they had an easy one. Oof. All right, next game, Big 12 game. We're still at 11 a.m. window, and it's the Cincinnati Bearcats on the road at the Kansas Jayhawks. Jayhawks laying 4 points. You have any info on this one?
No, I'm curious to see if Kansas defense can improve with their tackling, and that's been a weakness for their defense so far this season.
Hmm.
Cincinnati, I don't love either of these teams, and again, this is another Big 12 matchup that's right around a field goal, so I don't have a
Yep.
best bet here.
Yeah, I'm not too sure. I like Kansas. I like the way Kansas has looked. Daniels has looked healthy. They're kind of. I mean, they had a very good chance at beating Mizzou on the road rivalry game, but they kind of choked that, squandered 20-point lead, somewhere around there. 17-point lead, 14-point lead, whatever it was. Cincinnati hasn't really played anybody. They played Nebraska at home. Nebraska is probably awful. Nebraska is probably awful, and they got beat by Nebraska. So now they got to travel on the road against Kansas. This was one of my top six. I'll narrow it down to five, but I had Kansas -4 as one of my best bets. I don't know if that's going to be my final one by the time we get to the end of the show, but I like the Jayhawks. I do not like Cincinnati. I don't like, what is his name, Satterfield, the head coach.
Yeah.
Yeah, I am not a fan. I'm not going to say the word hate, but I don't like him whatsoever as a coach. And I think Kansas, I just think that they don't get enough respect. They have the offense. I think the defense is good enough. That Mizzou game kind of, I don't know. It's a game they should have won. They squandered it, but I think the Jayhawks. I kind of like the Jayhawks in this spot. The spread was around 6, and I think it came all the way. It's all the way down to 4 now.
Yep. If you like Cincinnati, there are 4.5s out there, but yeah, I'm only seeing 4.5s right now.
Yeah, it looks like Kansas is taking money, $1.17. Laying $1.17, bet online -4. All right, let's head to your neck of the woods, Denton, Texas. The South Alabama Jaguars travel to Denton to take on the Mean Green. North Texas laying 13 points. What do you think about this one?
North Texas has they're hosting USA tomorrow, and then they have a bye week. Kind of feel like this is a sleepy spot. Like obviously I lean UNT here -12.5 just because South Alabama's coming off of a loss to Coastal Carolina. And Coastal Carolina, I think I said last week, if Coastal loses that game in the fashion in which I thought they were, then I was going to have Coastal as like part of my fade train. But
Yeah.
Coastal ended up beating South Alabama at South Alabama by a
Weren't they
decisive
weren't
margin.
yeah,
Huh?
weren't they favored by double digits, South Alabama, that game?
14.5. They were laying the
Yeah,
hook
I
as
remember
well.
what's I mean, I remember talking about it last week. I just never saw the final score to it.
I think it was 38-20 in favor of Coastal.
Oh,
So
wow.
um,
That's a bad loss.
that is a bad loss.
Coastal was on the road as well, weren't they?
Yeah.
Yeah, that's a bad loss.
So I lean UNT here, but like, would I be shocked if North Texas wins this game by a few scores? No, I wouldn't be. But I also coming into the season, I had a couple. Well, I had that play with UNT against Washington State. It was kind of a buy low situation, but now
Mhm.
North Texas is starting to get a little bit more love in the marketplace. So I don't think we'll see. I don't think the Mean Green are going to have much value over the next few weeks, at least in terms of against the spread.
Yeah. Yeah, and coming off a loss like that, I would expect South Alabama to have a better performance. How good are they? I don't really know because uh, they've been playing much better teams other than Coastal Carolina so far this season. So I don't know what to expect from South Alabama, but I do think that they'll have a better game. So it should be that's an interesting matchup, but obviously, not obviously, but no play for me. And you heard it from the source himself. Uh, Lay it with North Texas or pass, really.
Yeah. It's not best bet material though by any means.
Yeah, and the total's at 63. Okay, here's another one. Big 12 matchup: Central Florida taking on Kansas State. And we have the Knights. They're on a winning streak. What's his name? The head coach,
Oh, Scott
Scott
Frost?
Frost. Scott Frost is on. I mean, he's like on a 17, 18 game winning streak with the Knights, something like that. And we know Kansas State. They're coming off a bye, but they have struggled and are probably one of the most disappointing teams so far this year. You got anything on this one?
Later in the show, this might be just like a money line sprinkle, but I don't this is not best bet material because if there is a spot for Kansas State to bounce back, it's this one. It's at
Yep.
home after the bye. Chris Kleiman gets his staff and players together. They figure out what's going wrong, or at the very least, figure out some of the things that are going wrong and correct those things and bounce back in front of your home crowd against a UCF team that we did not have high expectations for at all coming into the season. So maybe
No.
you buy low with Kansas State, or you sell high here with UCF. So the spread's 6.5 for Kansas State. I know some people are going to say, look, Kansas State they are winless against the number so far this year. So maybe you just continue to fade them. Maybe so, but this is not the spot, in my opinion, to do that.
And I agree with that last statement there. I don't think this is the right spot to fade Kansas State coming off a bye. Everyone's job is basically on the line that whole bye week to get this team prepared. This is what we have been talking about. This is a coaching game, right? This is a coaching spot. If you have a good coach, they're going to bounce back in this spot. Last week, the coaches that were in this spot, they came up zeros. Mike Gundy fired. Dabo Sweeney blown out by Syracuse. They were in these spots, and you trust these coaches to get these guys ready. They came up short. The week before, we talked about it. Rich Rod got his guys ready. There was another game, they got them ready. Will Kleiman get this team? I mean, if Kansas State loses, they'll fire Kleiman. I would guarantee it. They'll fire him. If not, before he gets off the field, they'll fire him first thing Monday morning. I don't see him surviving the week if Kansas State loses this game. But I also wouldn't want to bet on Avery Johnson and that offense. I don't like Matt Wells the plays he's been calling as OC. I can't lay the points here. If I was to play it, I would take a shot with Central Florida, see what happens. But there's no way I could bet money on Kansas State. They're one of the most disappointing. Just they don't look good at all. They look lost. Basically, they look completely lost. So basically, everyone's job is on the line on this game. In my opinion, we'll see what happens. But I want nothing to do with this game. If I do, it'll be Central Florida. Don't get me wrong, but I want nothing to do with backing Kansas State here, kind of like you mentioned.
Yeah, this is just like a money line sprinkle if you're going to have any kind of bet with this game. And again, this is definitely not best bet material, but for money line sprinkle's sake, sure, sprinkle a little bit on UCF until Kansas State proves you otherwise.
Yeah, looking at this game, I would have thought the spread would probably be like in a 3 to 4 range. Uh, it's at 6.5, so Vegas is kind of saying we think Kansas State's going to come out, put their foot down. Do I buy that? Not one bit. So we'll see.
I'm going to give a
All
prediction for that game.
do what?
I'll give a prediction for the game. I don't have any best bets, but it'll be one of these
Let's
two
hear
things.
it.
UCF is going to either win a close game in Manhattan where the crowd's booing Kansas State at the end, or Kansas State's going to blow UCF out. It's going to be one of those two.
I tend to agree with that. I think that's the only way it could go, really. One of two ways, and it's either a huge blowout or they basically lose outright and they get booed off the field. Everyone gets fired. That's basically the only two ways I see it playing out. You're right. I agree with you. All right, let's head to the Big Ten. And we got the USC Trojans still undefeated, laying 7 points on the road at Illinois. Illinois coming off a drubbing from Indiana. Can they bounce back in this spot? What do you think?
I lean USC here. I think USC is just the better team, but this is not best bet material. Why? Because you'd be having to lay a full touchdown with the road team here. So,
Yep.
and the timing of the game, the travel situation, that does not favor USC. The timing and the location of the game favors Illinois. I think even Lincoln Riley had a few words to say
Yeah, he
about.
mentioned it. Yep.
So, but USC definitely is the more talented team. And there are two specific position group matchups that heavily favor the Trojans. Number one, it's going to be the first thing that everyone talks about, the USC receivers against a banged up and injury plagued Illinois secondary that heavily favors USC. And USC has one of the best offenses in the country, to no surprise. I think they can get their fair share of points here. But I also think Illinois' offense could move the football against this Trojan secondary if, and this is a big if, the Illinois offensive line can block the USC defensive front. USC's defense is not fantastic, but it's been much improved under their new defensive coordinator who came over from UCLA last year. USC is really good at getting after the quarterback. Illinois' offensive line struggles in pass protection, especially against the Power 4 competition that they faced this year. So I lean USC here, but it's already had a full touchdown for the road team. That tells you something right there. On a
Yeah.
neutral field, USC would probably be closer to 8.5, 9-point favorite. At home, they're going to be laying double digits. So I agree with that. But this is not the kind of game that I have best bet material for.
Yeah, and I agree with you on that. I had Michigan State last week, kind of backdoor to backdoor in that game. USC scored late, and then Michigan State scored late to backdoor the
Yeah.
Trojans backdoor. But Michigan State was able to move the ball on USC. I can't remember what that final was. I think it was like a 16, 17 point game, maybe a 14. It was a weird score. But yeah, I had Michigan State, and if Illinois is able to move the ball, they could stay within this number. But like you said, you've been down on Illinois all season, before the season. I agree. It's either USC or pass. I don't want anything to do with backing Illinois. I don't care about the travel spot for USC. It's been a week. Like, the kids should have gotten plenty of rest Sunday, Monday, and I don't think it's should be a big deal. But USC still does have to travel. We'll see what happens. But it'll be something to note regarding the travel. It's something to keep an eye on. If USC has a great game, then the travel thing shouldn't be a big deal this early in the season. But something we'll keep an eye on. I don't have a bet on this. Will I have one if this gets down to 6.5, maybe a 6? It's probably doubtful, but if I see a 6, maybe I'll back USC. But that's something I'll post on X. But
I am finding a couple of 6.5s out there.
okay, so it's possible. And then on Bet Online, Illinois is laying or it's minus $1.15. So this could get down to 6.5. We'll see what happens. But right now, this is nothing I'm jumping at to bet on.
Yeah, in fact, you can find a few 6.5s out there for USC. There's a 6.5 at BetMGM, DraftKings, Bet Rivers. Let's see, I think maybe FanDuel. There's only one place right now that actually has USC favored by a full touchdown, and that's Bet365.
Bet365 and Bet Online still at a 7.
Okay, and Bet Online. So
Yeah.
everywhere else has USC minus 6.5 if you like that. But for me, that's not best bet material, because had Illinois not gotten their doors blown off of them last week, then maybe I would be more intrigued with fading Illinois. But now, because of that embarrassing loss, obviously you wonder how it affects them psychologically. But
Mhm.
there's also some positives from that, because now it's like the team, they come together and like, okay, look, that was an embarrassing loss. Let's put that in the rearview mirror and let's put that behind us and focus on this next team that's traveling, you know, several miles, right? A
Yeah.
pretty long distance from California. And their head coach has already complained about the travel aspect here. And so it's like, if Illinois doesn't bounce back now, they never will. So
Yep.
this is kind of like a gut check for Illinois. It's like the mentality check. Is this an Illinois team that's trying to change as a program? Are they a program yet, or is this just a team? I think
Yeah.
it's just a team, but we're gonna find out. So because this is a find out kind of spot for Illinois, I'm not willing to fade them, especially. I know it's below a touchdown at a lot of places, but I'm not willing to lay minus 117, minus 120 juice on that. So
Yeah. Yeah, no, and I'm in the same boat with you there. All right, 12:30 game. Let's head to the G5. Georgia Southern at James Madison. James Madison laying 16 and a half points. Uh, didn't James Madison come through for you? I think you. I mean, I know you were talking about it last week, but I never saw the final score between them and Liberty. Did they cover that game?
James Madison did, but I never made a bet on it.
Should have went with your gut. Should have went with your gut.
I should have went with my gut. You're right about that. But I don't have anything on this game for JMU and Georgia Southern. I do think Georgia Southern is maybe the third best team in the Sun Belt East.
Okay.
JMU, Old Dominion, JMU 1 and 2, and then I think Georgia Southern's the third best. So, but yeah, that's what 16 and a half. Yeah, I'm not willing to lay that.
Yeah, that's a big number. All right, 2 p.m. game. I think this might be a G5 outhouse game, and that's Arkansas Red Wolves at UL Monroe. Monroe laying 1.5 points.
No play. Absolutely gross, man. This is, in fact, you know what? I'll admit this right now. I try my best to get eyes on every game. This is probably going to be a game that I do not get eyes on. I really don't care about this matchup.
Yeah, I don't blame you. This is that's why it's the stinker of the week here.
Oh, I've
Nothing
got a
for
couple more
me.
stinkers for y'all for you guys coming up. So,
Oh,
I mean,
perfect.
that's not that great of a game, but I've got even some worse games
And
coming up.
didn't I mean, we talked about Kennesaw State against, or was it Kennesaw State or Delaware against Arkansas State last week?
Kennesaw State, that was a
And
money
they
line play.
destroyed them, didn't they?
I think Kennesaw State ended up winning 28-21, but they were up
Oh,
21 nothing, I think. Here, let me pull that
okay.
up again.
Maybe that's what I saw then. I remember seeing Kennesaw State have a pretty large lead, and I must not have seen the final then.
Yeah, Kennesaw State was up 21 nothing after the first quarter. Final score 28-21 Kennesaw
Mm,
State.
it's close. It's a close one.
See, total yards though. Oh my goodness. Kennesaw State outgained Arkansas State by nearly 200 yards, 500 to 320.
Oh wow. Yeah, so for me, outhouse, give me UL Monroe. If I had a bet, that's where I would go. All right, let's head to the Big 12 2:30 game. Utah Utes laying 13 points on the road in Morgantown, West against West Virginia. You have any info on this one?
I don't. What is the overall point total though?
Totals 48. Juice to the under right now.
This is not best bet material, but if you're one of those people that like to try to bet a little something on every single game, try to find something, try to find an angle on every game, the
Yep.
angle to take for this game is the overall point total. Utah is not fully healthy right now offensively, but this is not the kind of game that they have to be fully healthy to win. If you get where I'm going at,
Yeah.
there, West Virginia just doesn't have it right now. They won their Super Bowl against Pittsburgh. Congratulations to the Mountaineers, but they're not a very good team this year. It's going to be an uphill battle to make a bowl game. Even though they play in the Big 12, it's still going to be an uphill battle for them to make a bowl game,
Big
despite it
12's
being
talented. I mean, maybe no heavyweights, but Big 12's talented, for the most part, except for Kansas State.
I don't think Oklahoma State's too good either right
Oh,
now.
How could I forget the worst of the worst? Jeez. I mean, that might be the worst team in the country, Oklahoma State.
Yeah, they're pretty
They're
bad, no
definitely in
doubt.
the bottom 10, that's for sure.
No doubt about that. But yeah, I don't really have any strong leans here.
Yeah, it was 14 and a half earlier in the week. If it was still 14, I'd probably take a stab at the West Virginia possibility of having a, decent game with Utah coming off a bad loss against Texas Tech at home. traveling to Morgantown. West Virginia's going to get up for this game. This is a Rich Rod game. Coach the guys up all week. Maybe you get another, upset. He has this team believing, coming off a blowout loss at Kansas. So I don't hate backing the Mountaineers in this spot. I wish I was getting 14 points. It doesn't look like it's going to get there, but I mean, this is one of those coaching spots where I don't hate it. I wouldn't hate backing West Virginia here, but I'd rather have it at 14 like it was earlier in the week. All right. Here's another one. Back to the ACC, 2:30 p.m. Cal Berkeley at Boston College. Boston College laying 6.5. Cal Berkeley coming off a blowout loss against San Diego State, and Boston College. I don't know who they played last week,
I think BC had a bye week.
or did they? Did they have a bye, or did
I'm
they
pretty
play?
sure Boston College had a bye. Yes, they did.
They did. Okay, so that's an interesting one because I'm still a believer in Cal. This game was 3.5 earlier in the week. Now it's at 6.5. Let me just check to see if there's any Cal injuries.
I don't have any best bets here.
Nothing here. Yeah, I had obviously I was thinking about backing Cal Berkeley once again, and I don't hate it. All right, let me take a look to see if they have any. Oh wow, they have they have a huge list of injuries here. And they're all, of course, they're all undisclosed injuries. So I can't give you any updates, but on their injury list, it all says out, undisclosed. They did not practice yesterday. Let me see if I can get anything else on here. Yeah, so basically, there's a ton of injuries for Cal. They got wide receiver out, 2 defensive linemen, tight end, 3 guards, 2 linebackers, corner, kicker, corner, and they're all out. I don't know if these are important players. I can't tell you that for sure. So that maybe I'm assuming those are some important injuries because the line, like I said, went from 3 to 6. So I'm assuming those guards are probably starting. Um, so this is a game I'll probably stay away from. I wanted to back Cal, but looking at the injuries, uh, if that's their starting kicker, if those are starting guards, then yeah, this is going to be a tough game for Cal and maybe one Boston College. I'm not. There's no way I'm going to lay 6.5 points with Boston College, but yeah, I had this game circled for Cal, but now I'm looking at the injuries. It looks like it's 6.5 for a reason, so I'll stay away from this one.
Yeah, no play for me. In fact, John, I had a couple of preseason win totals for the ACC. I had
Mm-hmm.
one really early one in the Big 12, which I love. By the way, that was under 7.5 for Colorado when it first opened back in January. Apologies to the DDSN Nation for not making a video for that. That was one I just said on.
I thought you still. I thought you still did a Colorado under video. No.
No, I wrote an article for it, but
Oh, okay,
I didn't make
okay,
a video for it, and so I
okay.
didn't really.
Maybe that's what I'm remembering then.
There was just so much movement, and I was laying minus 174, I think. So
Mm-hmm.
I mean, but hindsight's 2020. But I definitely should have made a video for that. Close at 5.5. Yeah, and that's gonna cash at some point, probably within the next month or so.
Yeah,
Um,
I think it is too.
so where I was going with that with ACC and Big 12 is I'm probably not going to have a ton of certainly not preseason futures moving forward with how the landscape of college football is changing. But a lot of my best bets, unless there's like an angle that I'm taking for one of those conferences, like, oh, I like this team because their opposition has this team that they're playing next week, stuff like that.
Yeah,
Otherwise, I don't really think I'm going to have a whole lot of best bets in those two leagues just because there's not much of a talent gap. And the ACC, while there is a clear top tier and bottom tier, the teams in the middle, I just feel like they're all the same, but they are below average
Yeah.
Power 4 teams. And so you might be saying, well, if there's not much of a talent gap and you're just saying there's a clear top tier and bottom tier, let me rephrase that. There is not the kind of talent gap dispersed throughout all the teams to where you can have, betting angles, because your top team is going to be favored by a whole lot against the bottom team, right? Like a Miami against a Wake Forest. There's probably not going to be much value there, right, to bet.
Exactly.
And then you take all the other teams like the North Carolinas, the Syracuse. I know North Carolina's down this year, but like long term wise, North Carolina, Syracuse, Duke, Pittsburgh, Boston College, Cal. I can go on and on with this list. There's just no difference. Like if you were to power rate all the Power Four teams, John, I think what half of the ACC or so would be somewhere between 40 and 55.
Yeah, they have. Yeah, I mean, even by looking at the spreads, they're all pretty close. Like uh, Duke Syracuse, if that game was on a neutral, it'd probably be a 1-2 point spread. Stuff like that.
Yeah, especially if Angeli was healthy, right?
Yeah,
So yeah, I just don't really have a whole lot of angles. Like, think about most of my best bets has either been my sicko mode teams or stuff that I'm using for my priors, like my
yeah,
preseason stuff. Like, I thought this team or this position group was undervalued, and I like how they match up against that position group. But it's not like, oh yeah, I have so many angles in the ACC and the Big 12. Literally every single time, John, you've asked me, what is your opinion about this Big 12 matchup? And I'm like, oh, here we go again, another field goal spread. Nope, I don't have a play. I mean,
yeah.
that's just my perception on the Big 12 and the ACC right now. If you're going to have any bets, it's going to be way early on, when preseason stuff for win totals, for season long futures, not for like
Mhm.
individual games, like getting on Colorado when it's at 7.5 when it first opens and it closes at 5.5. So like there's a couple of situations like that if you get on stuff real early. But I mean, in terms of our weekly shows, you all of our viewers count how many stuff I have for the ACC and the Big 12 moving forward. It's just not going to be much.
Yeah, yeah, and that's right. I mean, they're all pretty tight. So I mean, I don't blame you for any of that. Here's an interesting game. Another 2:30 game. UConn laying 3.5 at on the road at Buffalo. You have any info on this one?
See, believe it or not, to our viewers, these kind of games have more value to them than a Boston College Cal, because you go back to your preseason stuff. It's like, oh, I like this position group against that position group, and the
Yeah,
G5 doesn't get as much attention in the marketplace as the Power Four does.
correct.
That's why people that bet on the FCS make a whole lot more money than the people who bet on the FBS. There's less attention being paid to the FCS teams. So there's a little bit of advice there if you like to bet on college football. The FCS market's probably even more valuable. But UConn Buffalo. Buffalo didn't bounce back last week. I think both
No,
these
they
teams
they
are pretty
they blew
even,
it.
really, from a talent standpoint. I
Hmm.
still love Buffalo's defense, but man, their offense is not very good.
Yeah,
Um, I don't love UConn's defense as much this year. If this were last year's UConn defense against this year's Buffalo defense, oh, I'm taking the under, man. But that's not the case. I don't really have any best bets here.
yeah, yeah. Nothing for me on this one. Yeah, I can't. I can't really trust either team. So nothing for me. Next 2:30 game, and that's the Indiana Hoosiers at Iowa taking on the Hawkeyes. 2:30 game. Any info for us on this one?
I don't think Iowa is as good as they are still made out to be. I think a
Hmm.
lot of people are assuming, ooh, Indiana's coming off that big win. They're going to start off slow. Iowa at home, it's Kinnick Stadium. We always see Iowa pull off these upsets at home. I mean, it could be worse for Iowa. You could be facing an Oregon or a Penn State or an Ohio State from a
Hmm.
body type perspective. You're just not going to win those kind of games in this day and age. This is not 2016, 2017, 2018 pre NIL days. So, these days are different now, different era. Um, Indiana is not one of those kind of teams. But I do not have any interest, John, in fading Kurt Signetti. So I don't have any best bets here. You do wonder how Indiana is going to start coming off that big win. So that's a fair point. But where I'm getting at is Iowa is not as good as they're made out to be. I love the Iowa offensive line. Their defense is not what it normally is. So if anything, I lean Indiana here, but it's not best bet material.
Yeah, and I agree with you. I was pretty surprised the way Iowa played against Rutgers on the road, night game. They put up, I don't know what, 38, 40 points in that game. I can't remember. But Iowa looked good, but again, that was Rutgers. This is Indiana. Yes, Indiana has a shitty schedule, non-conference schedule, but do you really want to be holding an Iowa +8 ticket Saturday afternoon? I mean, this game could be 14-0 in the first quarter, and you're looking how am I going to live bet Indiana minus 16 and a half to like try to win my money back? You know what I mean? I just and I'm not an Iowa. There's nothing I hate more than having to bet on Iowa because you're just there like, can we get a yard? Can we get 3 yards? Can we get just a first down? And I mean, you're just yelling, just begging for like a field goal. And it's not a situation I want to be in. Will I lay it with Indiana on the road? I don't think so, but I don't know. I don't know. It's just a weird feeling on this game. It's just not a game I would want to bet on. Big Ten game, Indiana, Iowa. Like it'd be the one time Iowa shows up, loses by a touchdown. You know what I mean? So, um, although I just don't really see that happening, but it wouldn't surprise me either. It's just not a game. I'm curious how Indiana's going to play after blowing out Illinois. I just I have no because I know if I bet on Iowa, I'm just gonna regret it in the first 2 minutes of the game. If I bet on Indiana, I could see Iowa just having the game of their lives. So I'd be frustrated either way. So I'm just probably gonna stay away from this one.
If
Curious to see how it plays out, but I know if I bet on either one of them, like something very frustrating, annoying is gonna happen. So I want nothing to do with it.
I feel you on that. If this were the typical Iowa defense, I would probably be all over Iowa in this kind of a spot, but it's not. This is a reason why. John, did I ever mention one word regarding the Hawkeyes through the summer to you?
No, not at all.
I just don't think they're anything special this year. So,
Yeah, and after watching the quarterback play against Iowa State, it was just brutal. Somehow Iowa came back into that game, but at the same time, they had no business in that game. I want nothing to do with it, to be honest.
right.
um,
But if Iowa
UCLA,
wins it, if Iowa does happen to beat Indiana, my preseason take that I made about there being chaos at the top of college football, it would only support that. So I'm not going to have any best bets here. And I'm not high on Iowa. So it's like one way I'm right with Indiana winning this game. It's like, see, told you Iowa's not that good. And then the
yeah,
other way I'm happy. It's like I might have been wrong about Iowa, but hey, my take looks even better now. So
yeah. All right, UCLA, Northwestern. Northwestern laying 6.5 at home. This is definitely an outhouse game.
oh yeah. Yeah, it's probably the Power Four outhouse game
I
of the
agree.
week. No play for me here. No way.
Yeah, me either. I rather bet on Iowa than on either one of these teams, to be honest with you.
Boy, that's a man. I don't know who I would rather bet on
That's
or
a good
what game I would
question.
rather bet on. I don't know. Huh.
Yeah, who would you rather have a ticket on? Iowa +8, Northwestern -6.5, or UCLA +6.5? That's an interesting question. I'll have to post that.
Maybe UCLA plus 6.5, just because I don't think Northwestern actually out talents UCLA. So maybe it's like throw a little bit on the money line sprinkle because now UCLA they have a new coaching situation. Maybe the guys will play harder. Northwestern's not any good. So should
Uh-huh.
Northwestern actually be laying a full touchdown against anyone in the Big Ten? I don't know. You can
Yep.
speculate about that. So To answer your question, Don, I guess I would rather have a ticket on UCLA plus 6.5, which is saying something because they have been the worst Power Four team against the spread up to this point.
Yeah. Ugh, get the
Yeah.
just thinking about that game. Bless anybody who's watching that on Saturday. All right, here's a pretty good game out in the SEC. Still 2:30 p.m. kick. LSU Tigers at Ole Miss taking on the Rebs in Oxford. Rebels laying 1.5 points. You have anything on this game for us?
No, I wish I had something because there are a few teams that I would love to fade right now. But both of those teams are playing, and I'll get to which two teams I'm talking about.
Uh
Both
huh.
of these two teams are playing teams that I'm just lower on from my priors from the preseason. So one of them is LSU. I want to fade LSU because Florida and Clemson, they've looked awesome, right? So LSU's defense is no doubt improved. Just watch them. Like
Hmm.
obviously, from the last 2 years, they haven't been very good. They're one of the better defenses in the country. Now, do you could you make an argument that maybe they're not top five because their opposition has just severely underperformed this year? Sure. Maybe LSU's defense is not as good as what we thought it was coming out of that Clemson and Florida performances. Maybe they're not. Maybe they are not as good as what we thought a couple weeks ago. Sure, but it's still legit defense. Offensively, they've got all this talent in the skill position, but it's just not clicking. Is Nussmeier not healthy? Is there something that we're not being told here? That could be the case with a Brian Kelly kind of coach that doesn't really give you, you know, what you really want.
Hmm.
He hates answering questions. We just got that a couple weeks ago, right?
Yeah.
We received that hint from Kelly. Doesn't exactly love answering all kind of questions. I did not understand that outrage from Kelly in the in this post game press conference, but to each their own.
That was when somebody asked him if Nussmeyer was injured, right?
I don't remember what question he asked, but it was a simple question. I
Uh
mean,
huh.
it wasn't anything
I can't remember. I know what you're
crazy.
talking about. I thought it was if they asked him like if Nussmeyer was injured, and that's when he got all upset. I could be wrong though, because I don't remember 100%.
Yeah, I don't remember the question that was asked either. But when you watch LSU, clearly the offense, clearly something is not right. I don't know if it's Nussmeier. We knew the offensive line had a lot of questions coming into the season. They performed well against Clemson, but apparently everyone can push Clemson's defensive line around. Doesn't make any sense to me with their talent, but
Yeah, Syracuse.
yeah, and Syracuse offensive line is not any good. They couldn't push UConn around. They pushed Clemson around. What the heck?
Yeah.
And UConn's defensive line is probably their team's biggest question. So there's a little bit of in the weeds info for our viewers there. But yeah, LSU's offense, man, it doesn't make any sense to me. The receiving core extremely talented. This is their deepest receiving core since 2019. Didn't say it was their best since then, but it's their
Yeah.
deepest since then. Um, and so I don't know what's going on, but something's going on with the offense and reason why it's not clicking. Ole Miss, I love the new quarterback, but I still don't love a lot of the position groups for the Rebels. I don't love their line of scrimmage. I don't like their defense as a whole. So I love the passing game, quarterback, receiving core. That's like A plus for Ole Miss. The rest of the team, I'm not really that high on. But so I want to fade LSU, but if Ole Miss ends up covering the spread, it's going to be like, hey, we told you to fade LSU, right? But this is not best bet material, just because I don't love Ole Miss from a preseason perspective.
Hmm.
The other team, I'm going on a tangent. I'll finish up here real quick. The other team, John, that I really, 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 really want to fade, but I can't bring myself to fade them this week is Iowa State.
And we'll get to that one here coming up. I think that's like a 6 o'clock game, so we're coming up on it. But for myself, I agree and disagree because I've got Ole Miss money line as one of my best bets.
I don't hate
I,
it.
yeah, and I think the main thing is LSU. What they had 5 turnovers against Florida, and they still only scored 20 points
If,
at
if,
home.
if
That's a big issue. They look great against Clemson, but now we know Clemson is terrible. So how good is that win for LSU? and now they go on the road. Ole Miss is looking for revenge from last season after blowing the game against LSU, which basically cost them the playoffs, which you could say the Florida game did, but if they would have beat LSU, Ole Miss probably would be in the playoff, I believe. Um, so this is a huge game for Ole Miss, Lane Kiffin, and I agree. I like this quarterback. He came from what division NAIA Division 2, Division 3, something like that.
Couldn't tell you. I don't remember where he came from.
So he has experience. He has experience, although it is lower level experience. And the offense, the team has been humming. Morale's been up. I did not like that initial Ole Miss quarterback, the lefty. He looked terrible against
Simmons. Yeah.
Kentucky. He just didn't look good. Left-handed, it just didn't look good. But now the missing ingredient has been found for Ole Miss. A lot of social media stuff about his daughter, LSU's linebacker with
Oh yeah.
Weeks. I don't think it really matters too much. Oh, Lane Kiffin also noted on one of his tweets to take the over. I'm not going to take the over, but I do like Ole Miss. Laying 1.5 at $1.15. I rather just lay it on the money line, just in case this game goes to overtime, which I don't think it happens. So I'll just be safe. Take the money line, laying a dollar 25. I do like Ole Miss in this game. I do not like LSU. I think they're overrated. Clemson's terrible. Who have they really beaten? Florida's terrible. They
Louisiana
struggled
Tech's the
against
best team they've
Louisiana
beaten.
Tech. So yeah, I'll take Ole Miss here, and it's one of my best bets for the weekend.
Hey, the streets are asking, John, is Louisiana Tech the best team that LSU has played up to this point?
It has to be. It's definitely not Florida. It's definitely not Clemson. It's got to be Louisiana Tech. I agree with that. I mean, Louisiana Tech probably beats Clemson, and that's not even hyperbole. After last week, that's not even hyperbole.
Right.
And they struggle with Troy. They barely beat Troy. All right, let's stay in the SEC for the next game, 2:30. Your Auburn Tigers taking on Texas A&M in College Station. The Aggies laying 6.5 points.
Well, Auburn's going to win the rest of their games. They're going to win the national championship. So take
Oh,
now.
hot take.
This is a money line sprinkle kind of play. I would not want to play against the number here, against the spread. I think Auburn can move the football all day offensively on this Aggie defense. I don't think they're going to have much trouble at all. Auburn's defense, I think, is better than A&M's defense. I think both teams have a legit offense. I think A&M I trust a little bit more offensively right now than Auburn, but I'd
Mhm.
certainly trust Auburn's defense more than A&M's defense. Home field, obviously, with the Aggies. But yeah, I think this is a money line sprinkle kind of a game.
Yeah.
That's the angle that I would want to take here for this kind of a matchup. 6.5 point spread, but on a neutral field. This is probably more around a field goal, if that. I think this should be more around like a 3 or a 4 point spread, to be honest with you. So I'm sure
Yeah,
people
I
are going to be like,
agree.
why don't you just take Auburn plus 6.5? Because Auburn finds ways to lose close games. We just saw it last week. And guess what? They didn't cover last week,
Yeah, no, they
even though
didn't,
they
and
should
that
have.
was a 6.5 point spread as well. 6.5, 7, depending on
Yeah,
what you got, but it was
6-7,
basically the same spread. Yeah.
6-7. Yeah, but um, yeah, this is just a money line sprinkle, and just don't sweat it out.
Yeah, I don't have a play on this one. Maybe by the time it gets to 2:30, I might have something, and it would be on Auburn. I still like this Auburn offense, their offensive line. It's an NFL offensive line. All you got to do is run the ball. Again, you still have Jackson Arnold, so that doesn't give me too much confidence. But yeah, I don't know. I don't know if I'll bet this one. I try not to make a habit back in Jackson Arnold, but I am not going to lay 6.5 with A&M, and their home field advantage doesn't matter. They lose at home all the time, so I don't think that factors in too much for me. All righty. Next game, and this is our pay per view, our heavyweight matchup of the day. and that's going to be the Ohio State Buckeyes taking on the Washington Huskies. We talked about this earlier in the week on our Monday show. And on Monday, I believe this spread was at 8.5. We said, wait throughout. You can take it now. It's fine. You can take it now. Not a big deal. But if you wait, this number will get all the way back probably to 9. And now it's at 9.5. I think you mentioned in some shops. But the Buckeyes laying 9 points on the road, number one team in the country. Let's hear it. Let's let the encyclopedia. This is it.
Best bet, take Washington plus 9.5. That's the best number you can find for the Huskies at the moment. And take Washington on the money line as well.
Money line.
Damon Williams, the quarterback for the Huskies, folks, is the real deal. You always have these young kids that get hyped up at quarterback every year, like, oh, you watch, he's going to be the new breakthrough quarterback. He's going to be the reason why this team improves and why it changes their program. And like 90% of those guys don't live up to the hype. This guy is, and he will live up to the hype. He's going to put the country on notice. If you don't know who Damon Williams is, you will within the span of just over 24 hours. And then the running back for Washington, Jonah Coleman. He's one of the top 5, at the very least, top 10 running backs in the country. Legit. And then they have a top 5 receiver in Denzel Boston. That's, in my opinion, that's the best offensive trio in the entire country. And they don't play for Texas. They don't play for Ohio State. They don't play for Penn State. They don't play for Oregon. I think the best offensive trio in the country resides in Seattle, Washington. This is a team that, skill position-wise, can hang with anyone in the entire nation. Defensively, I like their secondary. John, I had a few preseason futures. I made videos for that. I talked about the skill position for Washington. It's elite. And you guys have come to know one of my theories, one of my outlooks, if not my biggest outlook for the 2025 season is I don't think the top of college football is as strong as it normally is. So your number 1, your number 2, your number 3, number 4, etc. teams in the country are not as strong as that elite top group of college football normally is. So I think number 1 Ohio State in this matchup is more beatable than your typical number 1 team. They're going on the road. You have the freshman quarterback and Julian Sayin, the redshirt freshman, making his first true road start. And you want to know what one of the most underrated environments is in all of college football? Husky Stadium. Washington has won 22 consecutive home games. That's the second longest streak in the country, behind only Georgia. Georgia hosts Alabama. We'll get to that game later on in the show. But I love Washington to cover the spread. Certainly, I think this game is going to come down to the wire, so I'm expecting a 1-score game. Hopefully, we don't have a situation, John, where it's like a 4, 5, 6 point differential at the end, and Washington's trying to press the football. They're trying to push it down the field, and then there's a turnover, and Ohio State scores off of it. That's the only way that
Yeah, we don't want that. We don't want that.
We don't want that. We don't need that, obviously. But outside of that scenario, I think Washington's covering here, and I think there's a live dog situation, no pun intended. So give me the Huskies plus 9.5. That's the best price and number you can find right now with Washington. And give me, John, Washington on the money line as well. Washington over 7.5 wins. If those few guys stay healthy, I think that's going to cash in later this season. That was a preseason future of mine. And Washington, remember, John, plus 980 to make the college football playoff.
Right.
If they win this game, I think the odds right now, playoff odds for Washington, are around 4 or 5 to 1, depending on where you look.
Okay.
That's going to be much shorter odds, obviously. So I think we got that at a really good price.
Yes. 100%. And I agree with everything you said. We went over this a lot on Monday, and I agree. I said I'm happy to take Washington all the way down to a touchdown if it got there, but it shot all the way back to 9. I'm happy to take 9 points. Happy to take it on the money line. It's not going to be it's not a best bet for me because I try not to have the same ones as you, Connor. So, but this is definitely a game that I'm already on, and I'll be on both the money line and the spread. More than happy to. I think we got a lot of flack already on YouTube the past week since our show from Ohio State fans saying calling for an Ohio State blowout. We should delete our channel. We should have no idea what we're talking about. And there's a couple Ohio State fans that they're like, well, let's not look past this Washington team. And and they're right. I agree with them. Washington's just as good as probably any other team in the country. They have the talent and they have the coach. That's something else you can't forget. Jed Fish is a great coach, and is their Super Bowl, his Super Bowl. It's probably his biggest. I would say it's probably his biggest game in his career. And same thing with Damon Williams. Everyone there, everything's going to be built up for this game, and winning streaks on the line. Ohio State's winning streaks on the line. Freshman quarterback, true road game. Everything is just shaping up for the Huskies, and I think UW gets it done. I think if anything, they cover the spread, but I think this is the game the Huskies do win at home.
So another reason why I really like Washington in this matchup is because I don't think Ohio State's line of scrimmage is where you would think the number one team's line of scrimmage would be. I'm not going to say it's not great. No, it's still top 15. I don't know if it's top defensive line's probably top 10. I don't think the offensive line is top 10 in the country.
Mm-hmm.
But it's still top 20 both sides. But I don't think the line of scrimmage for Ohio State is just so good to where they can just overwhelm Washington with the talent up front. So that's another reason why I think Washington, with their skill position, can outmatch Ohio State here. If this were like Miami's line of scrimmage with Ohio State's skill talent, I would say, look, I love Washington, but they're outmatched here.
Yeah.
I just don't think, again, the upper echelon teams are quite as strong this year. And for those that are questioning, like, even if you have full faith in this Washington offense, you just don't know what they're going to do against this Buckeye defense. Let me put it this way. I thought Ohio State was going to have at the very least a top 5 defense coming into the season. They've obviously lived up to that billing. But this is still a unit that lost, 8 guys to the NFL, lost a lot of experience off of last season's defense.
Mm-hmm.
And they look great, like phenomenal against Texas. But how has Texas looked since then? Washington flat out has a better offense than Texas. At PFF right now, Washington has the number 1 offense in the country. So whatever you thought Texas was going to be coming into the season with Arch Manning and Ryan Wingo, that's what Washington is times like 3.
Yeah.
So this is
Maybe
the
even more than that.
right. Now look, Texas defense is much better than Washington's. That's apples to oranges. I am not
Yeah.
comparing those 2 units. But what I am
100%.
comparing is Washington's offense to Texas offense. And guess what? That's apples to oranges in favor of Washington. Ohio State has not seen an offense like this one. So the road test here, 22 home game winning streak. I just don't see Ohio State blowing Washington away here. If they do, credit to the Buckeyes. And like I did, John, with Clemson and Syracuse, I have no problem admitting fault if I'm wrong.
Yeah.
But hindsight's 2020. But I just don't see that happening.
Yeah, I agree. I agree, and we've been talking about it all year since the summer. We had this game circled that this is Washington's opportunity and game to get back to that college football playoff, but this time with Jed Fish and superstar in the making, Damon Williams Jr. All
Demond
right.
Williams. Demond Williams has the speed of Kyler Murray, or maybe slightly slower than Kyler Murray, but he's real close, man. He's real fast,
Yeah.
and he has the quickness of Johnny Manziel. So, I mean, he is real tough to contain. Everyone's like, if you contain Demond Williams, you're going to be fine. Well, sure. Can you contain him? We're going to
Exactly.
find out.
Yeah. Yeah, I'm looking forward to it, and I can't wait to watch that game at 2:30. And I know this is a game you wanted to talk about. This is a 3 p.m. game, and that's the Hawaii Rainbow Warriors taking on the Air Force Falcons. Air Force laying 6.5 points at home.
I certainly was leaning Air Force earlier this week, but I don't think Air Force's defense is as good as what it should be. I I don't know why Air Force's defense has been struggling like this. It's not good, and they had a lot of experience coming back on defense. And last year, Air Force was a really young team. The defense was still pretty good, but the offense really struggled. They brought back a lot of production on both sides of the football, so they were thinking, look, defense is going to provide a much higher floor this year. If the offense can take the next step, then if you're an Air Force fan, you're thinking then we can have a bounce back season. Well, here's the thing. Offense has been fantastic out of the gates. They've got a new quarterback that they really like there, an underclassman right now. But defensively, they have really struggled, especially up front. Now, Hawaii is not great running the football, but they can throw, and they've got a legit receiving core. The problem with the spot here for Hawaii, two things. One, it's on the mainland. We know that the Hawaii coaching staff with Chang and company, they do not do well at all on the road. It's terrible. I don't remember what the
It's an
specific
early
numbers
game
are,
for them. Yeah, 3 o'clock.
and I don't remember what the specific number is with Hawaii against the spread on the road, but it's terrible.
I
Um,
believe it.
and also with the spot though, this is the sixth straight game for Hawaii. Remember, they played in week 0. They're going to have the bye week next week. Hawaii's kind of banged up right now. So I strongly lean Air Force here. I did think about having this as one of my best bets, but I'm kind of a Hawaii 2025 enthusiast, so my heart couldn't bring me to that. Plus, John, I don't trust this Air Force defense right now. If
Mhm.
this was your typical Air Force defense, I would lay it with the Falcons, but it's not the typical defense. Maybe this is just a really, really bad spot for Hawaii and they get run over and Air Force wins this game by a couple or a few scores. Maybe so. But this also might be a shootout where, it's 31-28, 34. Well, 31-28 is not a complete shootout, but maybe it's like 35-31 or 38-31. So no play for me here.
Yeah, and Hawaii's had a cup at least two or three games that have come down to the last play of the game. Field goal that they made both times. That was against Fresno State, game winning field goal, and against Stanford. So they've been winning close games. Both of those were at home. So now they'll be on the road.
Fresno
No
beat Hawaii.
play. Do what?
Fresno State beat Hawaii at Hawaii.
Oh, they won. I thought Hawaii won by 1 point. Fresno State won.
Fresno won 23-21.
Oh wow. Okay, yeah, that's right because the spread was like 2.5, close 2.5.
Hawaii
Okay,
covered though.
you're right. Okay,
Great
yeah,
teams
no,
do
you're
cover.
right. Do what?
Great teams do cover. Hawaii's a great
That's
team.
right. Yeah, that's right. Because I remember that game because it was like a midnight game, and the spread was like 3 all week, close 2.5. They lost by 2. Yeah, I remember now. Here's an interesting game. 3 p.m. New Mexico State Aggies taking on the New Mexico Lobos. Rivalry game. Both teams coming off a bye, I believe. New Mexico laying 15 at home.
John, I'm gonna let you talk for a few minutes. I have to do something real quick, but I'm gonna stay here. I'm just gonna mute myself. I
Yeah,
have
go
to
ahead.
post something for Champion Sports real quick.
Yeah, go ahead. So this game's interesting because obviously it's a rivalry game, and both these New Mexico teams are kind of on the uptick, especially the Lobos. This was this was 14 and a half the majority of the week. Now it's at 15. New Mexico State has shown that they could score some points. The Lobos have looked great. I don't know if I want to lay 15 points here because New Mexico is a team that we will be betting on the rest of the season, and I think that they're going to win the Mountain West. So if you can find odds for them to win the Mountain West, I would take it. But will I lay 15 here? I don't think so. Here's another game. Tulane laying 14 and a half at Tulsa. We know Tulane's been on fire. They're trying to make the college football playoff. They're on a collision course with UTSA in the American Conference. Tulsa also going to throw their hat in the ring after a huge upset win at Oklahoma State. First time beating the Cowpokes in Stillwater, and I believe it was, I don't know, it was 30 something years, maybe even 50 something years. But can Tulsa replicate that against a much, much better Tulane team? I don't know if I'm ready. Like I had mentioned last week when talking about Tulsa, this Tulsa team looked terrible against New Mexico State. New Mexico State beat up on Tulsa. So the Tulsa team that I saw against Oklahoma State was not the Tulsa team I saw against New Mexico State or Navy. Navy killed Tulsa as well. I could see this being a huge letdown spot for the Golden Hurricane and Tulane destroying them. So it's not a game that I would bet on. Is Tulsa for real? Are they not? Tulane going to blow them out? We'll see. But nothing for me on that one. And 3 p.m. or 3:15 p.m. we have the Tennessee Volunteers laying 7.5 at Mississippi State. I believe both of these teams are also coming off a bye. And I have Mississippi State as one of my best bets. I like the Bulldogs here. I think this game's going to end up turning into a shootout. We have a total of 62.5. Nothing on the total for me, but I don't think this Tennessee defense can be trusted. They've been a little banged up. The offense looked great against Georgia, but their defense allowed second half comeback, fourth quarter comeback. Georgia was able to move the ball on them easily. Mississippi State has shown that they can throw the ball. Jeff Levy, I think he's finally got his offense kind of situated, got a quarterback. So I kind of like Stark Vegas and the Bulldogs getting 7.5 points here. I think you could even put a little bit on the money line. I think Mississippi State, this is a game that they have circled. It's not going to be easy for Tennessee because of their defense. I like Aguilar, a quarterback for the Vols, but after seeing the way that defense played against Gunnar Stockton, who is not a passer, and he threw all over the Volunteers, that makes me want to back Mississippi State here. Mississippi State threw the ball all over Arizona State, and that's a I would say a top 20 team for me. Tennessee maybe a top 15, top 20 team as well. So they're around in the same range for me. But a touchdown, 7.5 points. I like the Bulldogs in that spot. I'm gonna take them, and I'll probably even sprinkle a little bit on the money line. So that's one of my best bets. And we'll come back to that one if Connor has anything on it. What's another game? I don't really have anything. Liberty at Old Dominion, nothing for me. Old Dominion's, they've looked good. Liberty has not, but do you want to lay two touchdowns? No, thank you. This is an interesting game. Kennesaw State hosting Middle Tennessee State. We know Middle Tennessee State is one of the worst teams in the country. Kennesaw State's on the uptick. The Owls, I think they can cover the 7 points. I don't think this is something I'm going to bet on, but something to look at. And I don't really hate that number, but not something I'm going to bet on. Here we have another one, 6 p.m. We're getting into the 6 p.m. games. Memphis Tigers, the undefeated Memphis Tigers, laying 14 points at Florida Atlantic. I believe Memphis has covered every single game so far this season. I don't know if I'll lay the points on the road after a huge win against Arkansas. So that makes me hesitant. Even though Florida Atlantic hasn't looked great, they could throw the ball, they can score some points. Memphis defense is susceptible. But I don't think because of it's coming off of that huge Arkansas win at home. Now they go on the road. Not a spot I want to lay 14 points.
And I am back now, so I'll start talking with you. start talking.
All right. Well, we went over the main one that we went over that I had a best bet on was Mississippi State plus 7.5. I have that as my best bet. You have any info for us on that game?
I like Mississippi State's passing attack against the Tennessee secondary that hasn't
Yep.
lived up to expectation, largely because of injuries. The Tennessee defense, really as a whole, outside of the linebackers, I don't think has been as good as they were advertised to be coming into the season. But I also think this Tennessee offense, on the contrary, is much better than everyone, including myself, thought they'd be. In fact, probably including every single Tennessee Volunteer fan thought that they would be. So, I think we could get some points in this matchup. Mississippi State's defense is much improved.
Mm-hmm.
I don't really have a strong lean here. So I think the body types that Tennessee has overall are much better and of higher quality than what Mississippi State has seen up to this point. I know that they took down Arizona State, but I don't think Arizona State. I think defensively they have some nice players. Jordan Tyson's a really good receiver. I like the quarterback okay, but I don't think that Arizona State when they walk off the bus, it's not like their body types are just scary. So
Yeah.
this is the most talented team that Mississippi State has seen up to this point. So I think for me, this is a good like measuring stick game for Mississippi State. Let's see how much better that they are. I don't like disagree with you, John. It's just that this is not going to be one of my best bets.
Yeah. Yeah, and again, Mississippi State had played Arizona State late game, night game. So this is definitely a prove it game for the Bulldogs, and I think they'll show up. Will they win it outright? It's a sprinkle for me, but I'm definitely interested to see it. I like the Bulldogs. I think they get it done because they'll be able to attack the Tennessee secondary, like you mentioned.
In the preseason, a lot of people had uh, this as one of their more commonly chosen upsets for the SEC. Like, everyone was figuring Tennessee was going to drop a game or two that was, not expected because people were
Hmm.
anticipating Tennessee to regress. I should say not expected by market because a lot of people were predicting Tennessee to regress.
Yeah.
So this is one of those games that a lot of people had kind of circled on Tennessee's schedule. Like, this is the game where things are going to go wrong for Tennessee, or this is the game. Well, Mississippi State on the road was a lot of people's choice for that Tennessee slip up spot. So we'll see if you're right, John. Maybe you're onto something here.
Yeah, and after losing to Georgia already, that's a huge game for Tennessee because uh, losing two games in the SEC, that puts a lot of pressure on them because with one more loss, they're probably going to be out of the playoff
Yeah.
because of you know teams like Indiana who frolic and skip through their schedule against the mighty Northwesterns and Purdue of the world. But
Or maybe a Washington sneaks in there.
that's what I'm hoping for. That's what we're hoping for. How about this one? I think you mentioned this game on Monday, so let's get into it a little bit. Another 6 p.m. game, and that's Jack State at Southern Miss in Hattiesburg. Golden Eagles laying 4 points. What kind of info you have for us on this one?
Man, I lean Southern Miss here to the point of I almost want to make this a best bet.
Oh,
Um, my only issue, and this is a Connorism, or this is
mm-hmm.
a CFE
Connorism.
or a CFE-ism, whatever you want to say there. Connorism sounds better, flows better. If I were to make this a best bet, I would have three best bets in the same time slot, and I do not want
Ooh.
to do that.
Sweaty. Be a little
Yeah,
sweaty for you.
I already have, Penn State -3.5 versus Oregon. I have Appalachian State plus 16.5 at Boise in that 6 to 6:30 time slot. This is right in that same time frame. Man, I lean Southern Miss here. I was thinking about maybe taking the team total over for the Golden Eagles because I do not think Jacksonville State's going to stop Southern Miss's offense. By the way, box score, Southern Miss put up 500 yards against Louisiana Tech's defense. And Louisiana Tech's defense is
Wow.
a whole lot better than Jacksonville State's from an athlete perspective and a
Yeah.
depth perspective and experience. Um, man, I want to make this a best bet. I just don't want to have three games in the same time slot. So
Remember, just go with your gut, either on it or off it, but you got to go with your gut, whatever it tells you.
how many best bets are you going to have this week? 5 again?
5, yeah. I'm trying to have 5 each week.
I don't like to, I don't, in my own mind, I don't like to have a fixed number, but so
Mhm.
far up to this point, I've had 4 every week. Um,
Yeah.
so that's been a fixed number, obviously.
You have 4 right now, right?
I do have 4 right now.
Okay.
It just so happens to be that, when you look at like my sicko mode teams and then preseason, maybe like with the Penn State, it just so happens
Mhm.
to be it's hovering right around that 3 to 4 mark. And it's been 4 the first 2 weeks. Moving forward, there's probably gonna be some weeks I have 3, other weeks I have maybe 5. Um,
Okay. So pass on Southern Miss. Maybe that's one for people to keep an eye on around 6 p.m.
I when we highlight our best bets at the end of the show, I may or may not come back to this game. We'll see.
Okay. All right, we'll pass it for now. Uh Here's another one we kind of mentioned earlier in the show, 6 p.m. kick, and that's the Arizona Wildcats, the undefeated Arizona Wildcats, taking on the undefeated Iowa State Cyclones. Cyclones laying 6 points. What do you got for us on this one?
This would be a good money line sprinkle. Nothing against the spread, just money line sprinkle because I don't trust Arizona, but Iowa State's time is coming, and so you just don't know when that spot will be.
Yep.
Obviously, there's going to be at some point on the Iowa State schedule, um, as I'm trying to pull up their schedule here, that there's going to be a spot where it's like, okay, they're not winning that game, but there's got to be a time where you want to bet a spread against Iowa State, not just they're going to lose that game. Well,
Yeah.
you don't want to lay like a crazy money line price if you know where I'm getting at here. Um, let's see, I'm looking for Iowa State. What time do they play?
This is a 6 p.m. game.
I see. Um, Yeah, here's the thing though with Iowa State's schedule, it really does do them a lot of favors because like you would think like at a BYU, maybe that's a spot you fade them, but they host BYU. At Arizona State, you'd fade them, but they host Arizona State. At TCU, they do have to play at TCU.
That would be tough.
Um and they host Kansas and then at Oklahoma State. This is a like you do have to take what I'm about to say with a grain of salt because it's the Big 12. But Iowa State's schedule by Big 12 standards is a little bit more manageable than the likes of a TCU, of a
Mhm.
Baylor, of Colorado. Those teams have some pretty tricky schedules in Big 12 play. Oklahoma State has a tough schedule because they're just that much worse than every team right now. But
Yep.
there's got to come a time where you fade Iowa State, but based on their schedule, it may not be against the spread. Maybe you just sprinkle a little bit on the money line against Iowa State, and that's what we'll do here. This is not best bet material. I'm not going to have Arizona money line is one of my best bets, but again, John, Iowa State's time is coming. I just don't know when it is. So sprinkle a little bit on the price
I
here.
I couldn't agree more with you because I got Arizona +6 as one of my best bets. And
Okay,
I
you know
wouldn't be
what?
surprised if they win it outright. I agree with you. And we kind of been talking about it the last couple of weeks that this Iowa State team, they're they're fraudulent. They're
Yes.
number one on my fraud alert
Yep.
because who did they beat? Basic and they needed Kansas State to fumble and turn the ball over maybe 5 or 6 times in that game. They beat Kansas State and they beat Iowa by a field goal, that a game that they could have lost, and they kind of struggled. And I don't think they've played a Dakota, North Dakota, South Dakota.
South
They
Dakota.
they
It was
destroyed South Dakota. I don't know who else they've played other than that.
Iowa, and then at Arkansas State, and Arkansas State should have beat them.
There you go. And we talked about that on Monday. And Arizona, I believe, and now Arizona just went to a minus $1.20. So money's coming in on the Wildcats that we just said that. And I like Arizona. I like Noah Fafita. He looks a little thinner. He looks like they're using him more in the running game. He used to just be a pocket passer, but now he's taking off and running, kind of showcase that against Kansas State. Yes, Kansas State sucks, but he still looked good. And Arizona looked 100 times better against Kansas State than Iowa State looked. Yes, the Iowa State game was in Ireland in the rain. Like, I get it, but they still didn't look good. a game they could have easily lost, but Kansas State is just terrible. So I really like Arizona in this game, especially getting 6 points. Iowa State's number one on my fraud alert. I could see this game coming down to a field goal. Arizona winning this game. I just don't believe in Iowa State to be, just to be quite honest.
This is not last year's Cyclones. Last year's team was pretty good.
Yeah, no, not at all. They're missing a ton of NFL talent. I do like the Iowa State defensive line. They got some big kids, but other than that, I really don't care for them whatsoever. Yep, and right now it just went to 5. Iowa State's -5 right now, and money's still coming on Arizona as we're speaking.
And see that. I have to look more specifically in this match. Arizona, I believe, is undefeated against the number as well.
I think so. I think so because I think they've blown out everybody they've played. Which I mean, it hasn't been like a difficult schedule, but I'm pretty sure they've blown everyone out though.
They should have blown out Kansas State, but that was a relatively close game.
That kind of got close, but I think on the field, if you watch the game, Arizona dominated, but I think Kansas State had like a kick return for a touchdown or a punt return, and that kind of made the game look a little closer than it actually was. I think that closed like a 10-point game or something.
Yeah.
But yeah, that line's moving and it's continuing to move. So grab a 6 while you can, because that is moving and moving quick. All right, this is one that we kind of talked about earlier, but we can go ahead and go over it again. This is 6:30 kick. App State Mountaineers at Boise State. Broncos laying 16.
Yeah, this is one of our best. This is one of our best bets. Appalachian State plus 16.5. One of my best bets. I like the spot here for App State. I do not like the spot here for Boise. I think Boise is getting a little bit too much love right now in the marketplace, and I think App State is much better than what their scores and record has shown up to this point. So I think App State can move the football a lot against this Boise secondary specifically. Boise's secondary really has not been good over the last few seasons, but defensive line's okay. But App State, they love to pass. And I'm not sure if Boise is fully healthy right now on the offensive side of the football, especially with their quarterback, Maddox Madsen. So, yeah, I think App State is. I don't know if they're a live dog here. I mean
Yeah,
that'd be saying a lot for App State on the blue turf, but with Madsen, the quarterback for Boise State, banged up, I don't love Boise in the spot to cover this kind of a spread. They have Notre Dame on deck.
that was the other thing. Yeah.
I think App State can again. I think they can move the football a lot through the air against this Boise secondary. I think App State could make Boise sweat this one out. And I think App State, from an emotional perspective, is going to be playing for Sean Clark. Rest in peace, Sean Clark. But yeah, give me App State plus 16.5. I think you just said that's 16 flat, maybe 15.5 at some other places now.
I'm seeing 16 flat at Bet Online. Yep. All right, the next game, something you mentioned on Monday. So we'll see what you have here, and this is San Jose State at Stanford. Cardinal Lane 3 in Palo Alto.
Moneyline sprinkle for San Jose State.
Okay.
Not best bet, but have some fun with it. It's Category 4. Category 4 has gone very well so far. So it's the last Category 4 game. So we'll do a moneyline sprinkle for the last Category 4 game this season.
There you go. All right. So
Oh,
yeah.
real
Go
quick
ahead.
for our viewers, my Category 4 games are the games that I think the G5 team is live to beat the Power 4 outright. So
There you have it. And right now I'm seeing San Jose State +3, laying $1.12, plus 130 on the money line at Bet Online.
I think there might be some 3.5s out there. Scrolling down here.
Here's
Okay, I'm just seeing flat threes now. Okay.
All right, let's.
I was
All
kind of
right.
surprised.
Wait, go ahead.
I was kind of surprised I got to 3.5. There's a 3.5 at FanDuel right now, but you would be laying minus 120 with San Jose
Okay,
State.
so all right, we'll
I
get
didn't think that
okay.
would go over 3.
Here's the next game and another one of yours that you can go back over again, and
Oh, Penn State, Oregon.
that's it. Oregon at Penn State. Penn State laying 3.5 right now. Let's hear it.
So I know all of the conversation for Penn State is going to be, can James Franklin win a big game? And then if there is any other discussion with Penn State, it's they haven't covered the spread yet. They haven't looked good against the competition that they faced, and it's been a very easy schedule for the Nittany Lions up to this point. And then meanwhile, Oregon's schedule has not been difficult by any means either, but they've looked better eye test wise and specifically against the number. So now you're going to have some people throwing a little bit of money line or sprinkling a little bit on the money line here for the Ducks, 3.5 point underdog. I think there's some flat threes out there for the Ducks as well as a 3 point underdog flat. So this is one of my game of the year lines from the summer. I made a video about this in early July. So my whole thinking for Penn State with this matchup here is, number one, I like how the Penn State offensive line matches up against the Oregon defensive line. I think Penn State's going to be able to run the football without much issue in this game. I also think Penn State has been playing possum. I know that's what the Penn State faithful is hoping for, is that they've been playing possum, which is why they haven't been great against the number. I'm here to tell you, I think that's exactly what's occurring or what's occurred up to this point for Penn State. This was something, John, that I talked about with you in the summer. Was I don't think Penn State's going to cover those large numbers in those first few games, because I think they're going to hide their best stuff for this game. Why? Because in summary, this is an all-in effort for Penn State this season, and this is an all-in effort for Penn State in this game. If Penn State wins this game, especially if they do it where they send a message to the country. I don't want to say they win this game by 3 touchdowns or something, but if they win this game decisively, let's say they win by 10, 14, 17 points, that would send a message to the country. You know what? James Franklin just won a big game. Penn State came into the season with high expectations, and they are legit. And then you look at Oregon. There were a lot of people that were kind of fading Oregon coming into the season. Now, obviously, that's higher expectations in relation to most teams across college football. But the Ducks had so much production to replace a much younger team facing a veteran team for Penn State on the road in the whiteout. At the beginning of the show, we talked about Dante Moore and how he struggles in these kinds of environments and in these kind of games. We've seen a much better version of Dante Moore up to this point for this season, but he hasn't faced a team like this season, like Penn State.
Oregon State, Oklahoma State. I mean, these are two of the worst teams in the country.
Northwestern.
Northwestern, they're right there.
So, look, I know that lakefront can be intimidating with that 15-mile-per-hour wind, right? Well, there's going to be a lot more of that intimidating factor in the whiteout. But my biggest thing here, John, I just think Penn State's going to have an all-in effort in this kind of game. I think they are going to send a message to the country and set, at least for the short term, a new standard at their program, because this is Penn State's year. Well, this is Penn State's game to prove it that it's their year. Give me Penn State minus 3.5. I don't care that there's a hook. That was that's the bet that I made in the summer. So I'm stuck with that because there's some flat threes now. So for y'all, for your sake, for the viewers watching this video, take Penn State minus 3, obviously. But I had Penn State minus 3.5 as my best bet that I've already placed. I think Penn State's going to win this game decisively, John. Now, whether that's by 10, 14, 17, we'll see. But seriously, I do think Penn State wins this game by at least a touchdown.
How do you think Drew Aller is going to do against that Oregon defense?
Okay, so I talked for a few minutes there and didn't even talk about Drew Aller. So
Yeah, I mean because he's the X factor, but not in like the game changing X factor kind of way. It's either he plays amazing and Penn State wins, or he's terrible, which happens often, and they lose this game. So how do you think he's going to do against that Oregon defense? They got a lot of NFL players back there.
yeah, but this is a much younger team for Oregon. So it's future NFLers. I'm going to be much higher on Oregon next year than I will be this year. I think Oregon's a year away, and I think this is Penn State's year. So honestly, and I'll talk about Aller here in a second. This bet for me, preseason game of the year line, has more to do, has just as much to do about me not trusting Oregon this early on in this spot, and then me loving Penn State because of this spot for the
Hmm.
lines against the Ducks. So this isn't me like hyping up like this Penn State team is going to be, one of the all-time juggernauts and I'm tailing Penn State. No, this is like this is just a spot play. It's a very specific scenario here against a much more a youthful Duck squad.
Yeah.
But now in regards to Drew Aller, my opinion of Aller hasn't really changed at all. But I think because of what I don't have trust in Oregon up to this point, I don't think Aller has to be amazing in this game for Penn State to win. I think Aller's going to do his job. Penn State went out in the portal, got those experienced receivers, namely the guy from Syracuse. They got another guy from from Troy.
Because
They got a guy from USC.
they lost their two top receivers. They transferred
Yeah,
last
but
year.
they brought in a few transfers, all upperclassmen. I'm gonna
Mhm.
scroll down to Penn State here. So they brought in Trevor Pena from Syracuse, Kyron Hudson from USC, and then Devontae Ross from Troy. And
Mhm.
then Luke Reynolds, the tight end, has been the third leading pass catcher. But the top three receivers, as predicted, had been Pena, Hudson, and Ross, but especially Pena and Hudson. They've been good up to this point, those two. And I think Kotelnicki, the offensive coordinator for Penn State, came from Kansas a couple of years ago. I think he's been saving his best stuff for this game. So I think you're going to see some new plays for Penn State in this matchup. I think Drew Aller, I don't want to say he's going to have like a fantastic performance where it's like, oh my gosh, Drew Aller for Heisman, but it's more like, okay, Aller, we see you. You had a good game. You showed out well, but it was more like the team effort. It was a team
Yeah.
totality effort. And I think with that, it's going to be Hudson, Pena, maybe Ross makes a couple of explosive plays. My biggest takeaway, though, is I think Penn State's defense is going to have a brilliant performance against a much younger Oregon offense. And I
Mhm.
think, John, Penn State's going to be able to run the football against the Ducks. Oregon's biggest unknown, I don't want to say it's a weakness. It's not a weakness, but their biggest non-strength up to this point in the season is their defensive line. I think Penn State is going to be able to run the football for a buck 50, maybe even more in this game. So, yeah, give me Penn State minus 3.5. I think they win this game decisively.
Yeah, and I don't want to say I disagree with you, but I'm just not a Drew Aller fan. But I'm also not a Dante Moore fan. I know he was terrible for UCLA last year, and I think a lot of his weaknesses kind of get hidden because he's playing with a bunch of like great players. So I'm very interested to watch this game. Maybe if this gets to 4, I might back Oregon, but right now I don't really have a play on this one. I like your handicap on it, but Drew Aller, James Franklin is just not a cocktail I'm willing to sip on Saturday night. I don't think.
Final score 34-17 Penn State.
34-17. Okay, so nice, comfortable win for the Nittany Lions, taking advantage of a young Oregon team and young quarterback Dante Moore.
I think one of the reasons why I'm confident saying 17-point spread, or I don't want to say I'm confident saying that. It's my score prediction, right?
Yeah.
But it's a gut. It's not like I have a model here that's showing me Penn State's going to cover this spread by this much because of this and that. No, it's like it's a gut feeling because we've seen James Franklin. He's pretty aware of what the spreads are and
Yeah.
situations. I don't think Penn State is going to take their foot off the gas here. So yeah, and I just don't see Oregon scoring many points, and I think Penn State could run the football with a lot of success here, and I could see Penn State's defense also getting a score here against Dante Moore. So I mean, I could also see like 31-17, like maybe it's a 14-point differential,
Mhm.
13, maybe it's like 30-17. So maybe it doesn't quite get up to that 17-point differential, but you know what? I thought 34-17 in the summer, so I'll stick with it. But again, Penn
I
State
like it.
decisively by a couple scores or so.
There you go. There you have it. All right. Another 6:30 game, and this is going to be the Alabama Crimson Tide traveling to Athens to take on the Georgia Bulldogs. Georgia laying 3 points. You have any info for us on this one?
I don't. I don't have any feel for this game. I do not know how it's going to go at all.
Okay, so I think this is the first time Alabama's played at Georgia since 2018. So that's about 7 years. And that was a completely different Alabama timeline, completely different Alabama program as well back then. Alabama's only real win was against Wisconsin at home, and Wisconsin's terrible,
Your best
straight
bet
up.
last week, cash with Maryland, was
Yeah, that's right.
Wisconsin.
I was all over Maryland last week, and they destroyed Wisconsin. I mean, even worse than I expected. And I honestly don't see it with Alabama. Money's coming in on Alabama. This game may get down to 2.5. Um, but I like Georgia, and Georgia's my last best bet of the weekend. Georgia laying 3 points. I was impressed with Gunnar Stockton. His comeback against Tennessee, he proved that he could throw the ball. This Georgia defense may not be the best, but neither is Alabama's offense. And we know that Alabama struggled trying to stop the run against Florida State. So Georgia might be able to use their running game, which they had to lean more so on the pass against Tennessee because they're coming from behind. So I like Georgia in this game, laying 3. I disagree with the line movement here to Alabama. Alabama's proven nothing. Um, Again, they look good. Quarterback looked good for Alabama, but that was against, I mean, one of the worst teams in the country in the Power Four, and that's the Wisconsin Badgers. I don't think very highly of them at all. But yeah, Alabama's getting some play here. I just disagree with it. Give me the Georgia Bulldogs laying 3 points. If they win by a field goal, pushes, all right, whatever. But I don't think that's the case. Georgia's gonna have a little revenge on their mind from last season and then the way they got killed by Alabama, but they did come back. And I think that they get the job done, get the victory, and stay atop of the SEC. All right. Next game. Do you have any info? You probably don't, but a 6:45 game. This is Kentucky Wildcats at South Carolina Gamecocks. You have anything for this one?
For the sake of my preseason future on Kentucky under 5.5 wins, close at 4.5. I'm rooting for South Carolina, but I don't have anything on this game.
Yeah, I agree with that. It's a night game at South Carolina. Maybe they finally bust it open and cover this. Maybe not have a play on this later, tomorrow night. But South Carolina is one of those teams that has proven you can't really trust them. You don't know what you're going to get. Sellers looks great, but they're just not. I mean, they had a great chance to beat Missouri. They didn't, but I don't really trust Kentucky whatsoever. So I'm not going to lay. I mean, I'm not going to take the points with Wildcats here. All right, here's a good one for you. 8 p.m. We talked about this earlier, but go ahead and touch on it once again. And that's Louisiana Tech laying 3.5 at UTEP. Miners taking a little bit of money here. Let's hear what you got.
So this is one of those. If it's not broken, don't fix it. If it ain't broke, don't fix it. And Louisiana Tech is currently undefeated against the spread, and they are one of my sycamore teams. So what am I going to do? I'm going to keep riding Louisiana Tech until they prove me otherwise. But I think I said this at the very beginning of the show for one of my best bets that we discussed on Monday in our opener show. Normally, with this Louisiana Tech team, the way I like to attack them is take their opposition's team total under. But I don't think Louisiana Tech's secondary is going to be fully healthy for this game. And the one thing that UTEP I think is pretty good at is passing the football. And their coaching staff, the way they do things, I could see them getting some garbage time in this game. The team total right now for UTEP is at 20.5. I don't want to have to sweat that out. Maybe Louisiana Tech's defense shuts them down again, and maybe that under does cash, but I'm not interested in sweating that one out on the road here for Louisiana Tech. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to lay the 3.5 with the Bulldogs against a team that has really struggled at the line of scrimmage. But Louisiana Tech has not struggled at the line of scrimmage this year, a very physical team. So I think that Louisiana Tech should be able to win this game. I don't know about by a large margin, but I would have faith in Louisiana Tech and expect them at least to win and cover the spread here at 3.5. Sonny Cumbie and this Louisiana Tech coaching staff, they're undefeated against UTEP, and I think that will stay true there. I think they'll stay undefeated against the Miners. Give me Louisiana Tech minus 3.5 on the road against UTEP.
There you go. And the last game of the night, 9:15, the BYU Cougars laying 6.5 at Colorado. What do you have for us here?
I was thinking a week ago about this matchup and wanted to take an under because I don't like either offense, and I think BYU's defense is pretty good. I still do have some questions though about the BYU secondary. They performed well against East Carolina on the road. We just saw ECU put a whooping on Army last night, although Army's not very good this year. Um, I don't really know what kind of an angle to take with this game. I feel like BYU was going to slow things down and find a way to probably win by a score or so. I think the margin of victory for either of these teams will come down to turnovers. I still don't have a ton of faith in the BYU passing attack, and like I said earlier, I still have some questions with their secondary, but I don't think Colorado has the passing attack to really expose that. ECU, I thought did, and they didn't. So I lean BYU here, but this is not best bet material at all. Nor do I want to stay up late to be sweating out my last best bet. I already
That's
have
right.
a best bet that I'm going to be staying up late for with Louisiana Tech and UTEP. I don't want to have an additional one, I should say.
And isn't this a rematch of the Alamo Bowl?
Yep,
Correct? And
that's
that's
right.
where BYU beat them by like 40, 50 points. They beat Colorado.
They beat them, I think, by 3 touchdowns. I'll have to pull up the score here.
Yeah, I think it was
The,
more than that.
BYU should have won by more, but I think they
Oh,
had.
they made it close? Okay, because I was thinking that was like a 40-point game.
Yeah, BYU ended up winning by 22,
Okay.
but it felt like 40 points.
Yeah. Yeah, no, that sounds right. Yeah, I mean, do you think that this instead of the ECU game, do you think this is the game BYU might trip up in?
It's possible because I don't have a ton of faith in BYU, but I also don't have faith in Colorado. They're one of my preseason unders for a
Yeah.
reason. I don't love Colorado. So we are getting a lesser version of both of these teams this season than what we had in the bowl game. So no play for me. If Colorado upsets BYU, cool. I mean, I'm all for the chaos because I don't
Yeah.
think BYU is as good as their record right now. But if BYU wins this game like 23-20 or 24-17, it's kind of a slugfest. That would not surprise me because I don't think Colorado's any good.
Yeah. Yeah, and I could also see BYU just running the ball every play.
Yeah.
Colorado can't or hasn't been able to stop the run, and BYU's head coach, he's a pretty good head coach, and he doesn't have a problem running the ball 40 times a game. So I wouldn't be surprised if they did that. If they did that either against Colorado.
Yeah, I don't really have any strong leans, but yeah, I agree with that. The thought process of maybe BYU just runs it down Colorado's throat and they win in ugly kind of fashion.
Yeah, Satake, I think is his name, right?
Kalani Sitake, I love him,
There you
man. I think
go.
he's a great coach and
He's
a
a good coach.
tremendous motivator.
Yeah. That's the only reason why I wouldn't take Colorado because I could see BYU just running the ball every play, not even throwing it, and them beating Colorado. But yeah, that's all the games. We'll go ahead and we'll close it up. We'll go over our best bets just to run it down. Let's go ahead and give it a rundown and close with any other info we have. So go ahead, Connor.
Um, I'm looking to see if I still want to do something with Southern Miss here.
Oh, and then we also had some money line sprinkles that you wanted to touch on as well.
Correct. Do I want to do it?
Well, I'll go through mine real quick while
Yeah,
you're
you do
giving
your
it a
first.
think.
Yeah.
And for my first one, I'm going with Kansas laying 4 points. And I think that's a 11 a.m. I think that is an 11 a.m. kick. My second best bet was Ole Miss money line. I think that was laying $1.25. Also have Mississippi State plus 7.5 and Arizona plus 6. And last but not least, Georgia Bulldogs laying 3 points. I disagree with the line movement going towards Alabama. Those are my five best bets. And I believe Connor noted my at the beginning of the show, my record is 6-4, I believe. So
Correct.
we'll see how it goes on Saturday. You got yours lined up?
Yeah, I really want to try to do something with Southern Miss, but again, I just don't like having 3 games in the same time slot. I just
Yeah.
don't like that at all. I'm kind of superstitious about having so many plays or takes predictions within the same time slot. I
Uh-huh.
just
I get
never
it.
seems to bode well for me. So, for those tuning in though, I do have a lean with Southern Miss against Jacksonville State. I would take Southern Miss minus 3.5. I would also consider taking Southern Miss's team total over 30.5. It's below a key number, and I don't think Jacksonville State's defense is really going to stop Southern Miss's offense, which should have put up more points on the road against Louisiana Tech's defense. So I lean Southern Miss there with a couple of those plays there. But my best bets for this week, I've got 4. Again, I'm going to go with an opener that we talked about on Monday, Appalachian State plus 16.5 at Boise. And then from the summer, I love Penn State minus 3.5 versus Oregon. Um, I love Louisiana Tech minus 3.5 at UTEP. Keep riding the Bulldogs until they prove me otherwise. And then we can't go an entire show without talking and discussing about the Washington Huskies, Damon Williams, Jonah
That's right.
Coleman, Denzel Boston. Give me Washington plus 9.5 at home against the Ohio State Buckeyes, the current number 1 team in the country, and also give me Washington on the money line.
Yep. Yeah, and I agree with you. It's not one of my best bets just because I try to have different ones than you. But yeah, I love Washington as well, and on the money line. And same thing for me with Arizona, Mississippi State. I think all three of those teams they could win outright. But it should be interesting. And do you have notes or the money line sprinkles we discussed?
Yeah. See, give me. So obviously we had Washington on the money line. Give me I like yours with Arizona on the money line. Of course, you're taking them against the spread too. I'll take
Hmm.
Arizona on the money line. I will take Pittsburgh on the money
That's
line
right,
against
Pittsburgh.
Louisville.
Yeah, we talked about that.
I let's see. Oh, I'll take San Jose State on the money line against Stanford.
That's another one. Yep.
I'll take Louisiana on the money line against Marshall.
There you go.
Let's see, I'm searching for some others. I thought I had one other that I liked.
Yeah, the only other one that I could go ahead.
Auburn on the money line against A&M.
The Tribe. Arizona down to 4.5, or Iowa State down to 4.5 now. App State. No, I think that's just.
Well, what's that price right now for the money line for App State?
5-1.
You know what?
Plus 520.
Sprinkle it. Let's do it.
Hey, you never know.
Yeah, sprinkle it. All right, those are my money line plays.
Yeah, I think that's like the only that's what I would mention is App State's kind of a crazy one if you want to get crazy, and the other one would be West Virginia at home if you want to get crazy for both of those. So that's plus 358, not as large, but plus 358 for Mountaineers to upset Utah. But I mean, that's everything that I had. We went over the games tonight, and that's at the beginning of the show. Our best bets. Anything else you want to close with?
Something noteworthy about tomorrow's slate and our best bets. I don't have any 11 o'clock games for the best bets, so I'm just going to be enjoying the morning slate of games, that first slate of games, not having to sweat anything out. But then I've got one game at 2:30 with the Huskies, and then I've got two games in the 6:30 slate, and then of course the late game with Louisiana Tech. But I love these best bets. I loved them last week, and yeah, I went 1-3 overall. You had another winning record of 3-2. But I should have been 2-2. I had the worst bad beat, John, with Troy and Buffalo.
Yeah, I know it. I know that one was rough.
But obviously, I was on the wrong side of Clemson. I made it clear I made a mistake there, and apologies for that, folks. But going into it, I thought that was a get right spot for Clemson against I think a below average Syracuse team. But turns out that Clemson is not even close to what any of us thought coming into the season. And then, East Carolina plus 6.5 against BYU. I still don't mind that play. The turnovers were just killer to East Carolina. And we saw East Carolina discover the spread against Army last night. So, sometimes you're just a week late tailing a team.
Yep. I know exactly how that goes. But that's everything that I had. I think we can go ahead and close it up there. Hopefully we have another good Saturday. Hope y'all like the show. Let us know if you have any questions. The full show will be up on X, Twitter. So go ahead and check that out at DDSN_US. And I don't think I'll make some shorts and videos for YouTube today to get up there this afternoon, tonight, all of that, so that y'all can go back and check anything else out that we talked about. The full show won't be on YouTube. I think it takes like 24 hours, but I'll cut it up. And like I said, full show is going to be on X, and just look out for us on Twitter. That way we'll be firing off anything that we add and play throughout the day. And we'll see y'all hopefully on Monday for the recap show, and we'll do it all over again, hopefully with a winning week.
Let's go. Let's have a bounce back week, John. I need to bounce back. You had another good weekend. So
I gotta keep it rolling. It rolling.
That's right.
All righty. Well, we'll go ahead and close it up there, and we'll see y'all next time. Thanks for tuning in.